I think music makes all the difference.
You like this music?
Yep.
Yeah, like generic
like's a
rock
strong word.
is perfect for any drag racing. You've ever played any drag racing video game or anything?
Yeah,
true.
It just sounds like the opening.
Just hit that generic rock
screen
track
on the NHRA video game. Like, turn it.
Something about those, electric guitars,
nitro,
man.
Right?
Like, same one from.
How about remix that?
2003.
Like, click, boom. Right?
That's a good song, though. Yeah.
That is a good song. I'm not saying it's not, but it has been worn out, right?
Yeah. Well, it got worn out that year that NHRA had it. That was awesome, though. Because that was like a hit song during that time period.
It's been around so long that it's been on my playlist like 3 or 4 different times. You know, like you get sick of it and you remove it, and then you're like,
back.
Oh yeah, I'll listen to that again. Yeah,
fine with it.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
And you hear it about 20 more times. You're like, oh, that's got to go.
Like, oh, so that's still on.
We're gonna
here.
get Blake
I ruin
to write
songs in my house. I ruin songs.
Blake's gonna write some
everybody hates
original music for Wes Buck.
He is
so
the Wes Buck show, theme song, man.
So that we don't have any copyright.
My name's Wes Buck. I don't give a.
This ain't luck. Sorry, I'm trying to throw some.
Gonna throw the biggest
Turns
drag
out
race in
I'm
the
not
world.
an
It's not
MC.
gonna suck.
My crew don't suck. Yeah, we got this. I'll write the lyrics for you, Blake.
Oh, perfect.
You do.
Yeah.
Great. That's always encouraging.
We're in the-
when JT Hudson is the
I am.
songwriter
I'm
good
credit.
step so far.
You know, my parents told me one time I was a poet and didn't know it.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, Louise, JT. My goodness. I do think music is a big deal that doesn't get leaned on enough. Like we're gonna do more music stuff at World Series of Pro Mod this year. I just think it makes all the difference.
It controls people's emotions, is what it does.
Doesn't mean like my wife hates music. Like she doesn't care. You can take it, leave it, doesn't matter. Me, I like
really.
It like gets me pumped or makes
they
me
say you should be
sad
really
or-
worried
yeah.
about people that say that they don't like music. I actually read that somewhere.
I've got
She doesn't
another
like.
friend
She doesn't care. Or she doesn't like any music. Period.
that I asked him like what his favorite song was. We're gonna play it over the big loudspeakers and sing karaoke to it in the
Who,
shop there.
Stacy?
And he goes, no, this is another one of my friends, and he said, I don't really
I thought
have
we
a
were
favorite
talking
song.
about
I don't
your
even
wife.
I don't even turn on. No, my wife's the same way, but I don't even really turn on my radio in my truck or something. And I was like, what?
Van Abernathy doesn't listen to music.
Yeah.
What?
Likes to hear the
Really?
radio. Yeah.
We're worried about you.
Call Van right now, and he's Well, he's actually on a cruise ship. But call Van right now, and he could be driving across the country and be like, "Hey, man, what's on the dials, man? What's on the radio?" He'd be like, "No, nothing. Just talking
The
to God."
highway.
He's talking to God.
Wow,
I mean, it's true.
man.
I mean, he does. He just. It's a.
I was getting ready to call him.
I
thought you were
listen to
serious.
music.
I was like, okay.
Music's a huge part of my existence. Like, I
Most
mean,
definitely.
yeah, a huge part of it. All right, hey, let's.
What do we got going today?
All right, we got a big one today. Gang, huge show for you guys today. Very excited about this. We're going to be joined here in just a few minutes by our friends, longtime friends of Drag Illustrated, the one, the only, perhaps one of the best to ever do it, Jim Halsey, Pro Nitrous superstar, as well as World Series of Pro Mod frontrunner, the one, the only, Keith Haney, a legend, at least in his own mind. I think we're all pretty fond of him, but he's certainly way up there in his own programming. And we're also going to hear from TJ Pruitt, dragcoverage.com's own TJ Pruitt, who's fresh off a huge weekend in Steele, Alabama, his annual Night of Fire event. Big show for you guys today. JT, roll the intro.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, August 30th, 2023. Thank you guys so much for being here, being a part of this craziness each and every weekend, each and every week, right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel, Facebook page, everywhere else, YouTube, podcasts are sold. Thank you guys, seriously. It means the world to us, the fact that we're able to get everybody together, talk about the sport of drag racing, all the latest and greatest happenings in this incredible sport that we're also blessed to be a part of, and have you all help us spread that message. So remember, click like, click share, click subscribe, help us spread the gospel of drag racing. You have no idea the impact it makes. It's very significant. We've got a barn burner of a show for you guys. It's Indy week around here. If you're in the drag racing world, the NHRA US Nationals are a massive happening, the biggest drag race on the planet Earth. I believe the entry list at upon last look, nearly 900 cars headed to Claremont, Indiana this weekend for the NHRA US Nationals, the 69th annual running of the NHRA US Nationals, established in 1955. It's the big go. It's the granddaddy of them all. I can't wait to get there. I believe I get there Thursday morning. It's super excited. We've also got there's a lot going on in the drag racing world right now. And this is something I want to talk about whenever he comes on the show a little bit later. But we've also got the YellowBullet Nationals coming up at Cecil County Dragway. And to be honest, it's kind of a big happening, these two huge events happening on the exact same weekend. And I would love to kind of dive into that story a little bit when we're joined a little bit later in the show by Jim Halsey, the owner of Cecil County Dragway, and one of the main, what would you say? The main people behind the YellowBullet.com Nationals, along with the whole crew at YB and Monty Miko and everybody else that's involved. But anyways, we've got a big show for you guys today. We'll also be joined by Keith Haney, founder of the Midwest Drag Racing Series, who's actually making the 1,400-mile trek across country to Maryland from his hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, to participate in the YellowBullet Nationals. We're also going to be joined about an hour from now by TJ Pruitt, promoter of the dragcoverage.com Night of Fire that took place this past weekend in Steele, Alabama at Alabama International Raceway. But before we get into all that stuff, we got plenty to cover. Let me introduce my cohorts here on the Wes Buck Show, the one, the only, Mike Carpenter, JT Hudson. What's up, boys? You doing good?
What's up?
JT, a little bit of a different backdrop. I see some, What is it, Ron Capps in the background? What is this, a replay? You got your DVR fired up?
Yeah, man, we're in the bar downstairs.
He couldn't get away from the house, he said. He's got too much going on for the soybean festival.
I actually came home for it. I went to the office and I came home for this so that I could get to my daughter's golf meet later. And so, well, with
JT, I mean, it's Indy week, but apparently in Missouri, it's
soybean festival,
which is bigger than the U.S. Nationals. So
we're prying the U.S. Nationals look.
And I'm the father of last year's soybean queen. Whoop. So yeah, whoop 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 whoop. Shout out Dayton. Yeah,
shout out Dayton.
Somehow
reigning, defending soybean festival queen.
Yeah,
we're prying JT away though to go to.
She better stop acting like me, or she's going to get stripped of her crown. I believe. So.
If your kids start acting like you, I'd relocate. Like to Antarctica. I'd just go a long way away, somewhere in like the forest of Mexico. Yeah, you need to get out of Dodge.
The forest of Mexico.
Like a forest. There's a lot of forest in Mexico. I've only flown over a handful of times, but a lot of greenery.
There is a lot of greenery, yeah.
A lot of coverage,
yeah.
Right? So I think you'll be able to find a place to hide out. Guys, again, big week in the sport of drag racing. I kind of want to just, I don't know, riff on this whole deal. I mean, how many years, let's just share some Indy memories. I mean, for me personally, this event, it's so integral into what we do here at Drag Illustrated, in that it's just something that, what's the word? It moves the needle. Like it tugs at your heartstring a little bit. I don't know about you guys, but I get excited every year. Like whenever it's time to go to Indy, start talking about Indy, it just feels, I mean, maybe it's the conclusion of the NHRA countdown, right? Maybe it's the playoff deal. Maybe it's the time of year. It's record setting season, right? We're gonna trend towards the cooler months where we're gonna see some potentially record breaking runs. It's just an exciting time of year, and when you get everybody there, I tell you what it is. It's a mover and shakers race. I wrote this in my notes, that it's one of the handful of events that bring people out of the woodwork, right? I mean, it's people that don't typically go to every race, but they're not going to miss Indy. So, I mean, if you're if you're in the business of drag racing, the U.S. Nationals is essentially a can't miss event, because almost every decision maker in this space will be walking around Lucas Oil Raceway at Indianapolis this weekend. I mean, Mike, is that kind of your take on the situation as well?
Yeah, for sure. Look at JT, man. We're dragging him out. It's really, it's the only, I believe it's the only NHRA race that you're going to be at this year, right? So I think it's a big one for everybody. And to me, it's the time of year, and the fact it's like signaling the start of fall, the end of the regular season. You know, the point structure resets. Everything is different after Indy. So, it's a big one. And I haven't been as many times as I would like to be honest with you. We used to go to Indy a lot with my dad when the Super Chevy races would go there. I went to those every year. And those were huge deals. It kind of seems like a lot of events they have at Indy end up being big deals. They had the Cletus deal earlier in the year there. So it's almost just the place itself and the name Indy, that anytime we go there for a drag race, it's going to be a big deal. But this is obviously the big one. We've seen the entry lists, I think probably at a high for the last few years compared to obviously the COVID years. But to me, one of the best trips we had was actually during COVID, that 2020 trip with kind of battling that whole situation with COVID. Were we going to continue to ever have Indy? Remember the handful of races they had at Indy. Was that going to take away from the U.S. Nationals? There was kind of like a lot of uncertainty, but that ended up being a great event with a lot of memorable things happening. So
last year was fun. We had a good time.
Yeah. Last year was
too good of a time.
Too good of a time. We're gonna have less of a good time this year, JT.
You two are going to have less of a good time. Guaranteed.
Promise me.
But I just think that I think about personally. I think I went to I've gone to the NHRA US Nationals every year since 2006. So we started the magazine in 2005. It was October. The US Nationals had already happened, but the next year, it goes without saying that if you're like launching a drag racing magazine, that you've got to be at the U.S. Nationals. And I remember going for the first time in 2006, and we stayed at the what is it? The Crown, whatever it is, the Crown Plaza down, the one that has the train running through it. Right. So we stayed downtown, and I just remember how much of a big deal it was, because this is funny, man. I got my first ever paycheck from Drag Illustrated in 2006, right? So we'd been doing this deal for about a year at this time, right? So we started the magazine, and it was, at that point in time, and it's weird how everything changes, because being an entrepreneur is like a buzzword in 2023, right? Everybody says it. That I don't even know that I knew what that word meant in 2005 when we started Drag Illustrated, right? It wasn't really as talked about, starting your own business or whatever. And we didn't really even know what we were doing. We were just like trying to find a way to go to the drag races and have it be a money earning situation. And so anyways, I remember going to the US Nationals in 2006, and we went to Hooters, which I think has long since been closed in downtown Indianapolis. It's like not there anymore.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. I'm sorry, T. But we went there. It was so funny because we were like kind of going over the company finances. And when I say company, that's like a real big, like I'm being very generous.
You're balancing a checkbook, on the back of a
it was like,
how long did that take? It took 5 minutes.
Not quite. I would say it took 40 to 50 seconds to really talk about how much money have we made, right? Or how much have we brought in? What's left? And I remember sitting there with my then partners and going like, dude, we're each about to get $200. You know what I mean? We split $600 three ways. And I'm going, we're about to go to the big time, bro. Like you're getting $200. I'm getting $200. He's getting $200. Like, when does it end?
What do you say we get out of? What do you say we get out of this Hooters and go to somewhere nice like a Buffalo Wild Wings?
Exactly. I'm like, throw these wings away. We need to go. We're moving up in the world. But it's funny how like little silly things like those, they're kind of like core memories. Like I remember that. Like I remember the table we were sitting at. I remember it so vividly that to think about all that's happened since then, 16 years ago, it's kind of hard to believe. I remember rolling up on I remember driving over, this had been a few years later, probably in like, what would have been 08, 9, 10, something like that. Driving over, because it was always a drive. It was never a race that I flew to. About 7 hours from Northeast Missouri to Indianapolis, Indiana, and I always made that drive. And it was something that, I mean, I looked forward to year after year after year, just making that drive, being alone in the car, alone with my thoughts, thinking about things. And I remember showing up, I think it had been 09. It would have been, Mike, it would have been right about the time at the height of the David Reher Morrison going pro mod racing movement, right? This is an engine builder that had kind of earned its stripes in pro stock racing, sportsman racing, and were making the move into pro modified, and had teamed up with Shannon Jenkins, Mike Castellana to provide power to that team in NHRA Pro Mod competition. And I remember rolling up, and it was a big deal to me personally, but I was walking into the Pro Mod pits, shocking. Unfortunately, they were parked like on the back nine out in the grass and gravel and whatnot. And I'm walking out there, and I walk up towards Shannon Jenkins' pits, and there's David Reher sitting in a camp chair, right? Leg crossed, reading Drag Illustrated. And it was like this, it may have been the most like validating moment of my life at that point, to roll up on someone as accomplished as David Reher reading our magazine. It was like such a moment for me. And I'll never forget it. Still, I took a picture of him sitting there. I've got it somewhere on my phone. I would have to dig it up. But anyways,
I think I've seen it. We ran it in the magazine.
We ran it in the magazine.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I rolled up, took a picture immediately, because I'm going, this ain't happening again.
Is that where Look Who's Reading started?
That was a fun section.
It wasn't where it started, but it really
almost
was a cool
almost
section
as fun as the Babe of the Month.
Ooh, Babe of the Month caused a lot of problems. Yeah, that was a questionable decision, pretty much across the board.
This was even pre-JT, so
yeah, that sounds
we were wild, dude.
Even I would know probably not to do that.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be encouraging it.
I don't know, dude. I mean, to be honest, I'm halfway embarrassed to admit how much effort we put into that part of the magazine. We'd be like organizing a photo shoot across the country, right? It's like, all right, hey, about 1,000 miles away from here, we're like renting a shop. We're like getting people. We're getting lights. We're getting a photographer to go shoot the Babe of the Month for Drag Illustrated.
Well, it wasn't. We were instigated by a certain photographer.
Yeah, who I've been talking to a lot recently.
This was his pet project.
It was his pet project, man. But I think we shot maybe one of those in Indy over the years at some point in time. No, I know we did. We actually, whenever we shot Raymond Camiso, there's a blast from the past for you. Whenever we shot Raymond Camiso for the cover of Drag Illustrated, which would have been like one of the first 10 issues, for 10 or 12 issues for sure, we did a Babe of the Month photo shoot at that event as well. And it's just, it's a special place. I mean, it really is. It's like a cultural happening. I remember going there. 2006 was the first year I went as Drag Illustrated, right? Like, as this was my career. But many years prior to that, I'd went with my dad, and I remember rolling up and just seeing the parking lots full of people and the campgrounds full of people. And to me, to be honest, like, that is kind of what our sport, I saw it a few weeks ago in Brainerd, Minnesota at the NHRA Lucas Oil Nationals. That campground festival vibe is built for drag racing. Like, they go hand in hand. The way drag racing is organized and the way it plays out over the course of an entire day. And it's, we're going to run Q1 at 11 a.m. We're going to run Q2 at 3 a.m. We're going to run, or 3 p.m. We're going to do this. It lends itself to a festival, because you can go do other stuff, right? Go back to your pit, go back to your campsite, party with your friends, come back, watch a little bit of racing, go back. It's so, and when that happens,
and it's over early enough where you can get some festivities in that night. You can eat and barbecue, and and you're not running until 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. You know what I mean?
Think that personally, those are memories that are like welded in my brain. Pulling up, I mean, the signs you would see rolling into the U.S. Nationals, I mean, it was some real off-color, audacious stuff, but it spoke to the energy and the vibe and the atmosphere. I mean, if you go across the street from the racetrack into that campground there, just opposite of the pits, the Pro Mod pits. I mean, it's a free for all. It's a wild, wild scene, bro. And that, I think, to be honest, in my opinion, those are our people. Those are the people that make drag racing what it is. And I think sometimes we get really bad about trying to like lean away from our identity, who we really are. I mean, this is a sport that was built on the back of outlaws and badasses and kind of roughnecks and blue collar people.
I think NASCAR runs into that all the time, because they're always trying to polish it up, and it's like, but that's not really your audience, man.
It's really not, man. I mean, and I'm excited to go back to Indy. It's a special place. They do. You think about all the history that's happened there, all these iconic moments that have happened in the sport of drag racing, and I don't know. I think that we may well see a few more this very weekend. They've got more racing going on than you can shake a stick at. I mean, obviously, Top Fuel, Funny Car, all that, Pro Stock. We're going to have Factory X, which has been a big topic of conversation. They're going to have a 4-car shootout at the Hemi Challenge. What else is going on? I mean, they've got 63 cars in Comp Eliminator, which is unheard of in recent history. I mean, just in a tremendous amount of drag racers. I know some top sportsman guys who literally went and entered divisional races just so they could get their grade point and be able to enter the U.S. Nationals. There feels like there's some momentum that maybe hasn't been there since pre-COVID, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think that we're seeing some enthusiasm and some momentum around this stuff, that it's been a while since it's felt this exciting. And to be honest, I feel like a little bit of a renewed sense of enthusiasm from NHRA.
Last year was pretty good. I mean, like,
it was pretty good,
because I was really shocked when we were just walking around and just how packed and how excited everybody was. And yeah, I thought it was great. But
it's the U.S. Nationals, right? I mean, and I think, you know what, who do we have in the green room right now? I think it's Keith Haney.
You know his name.
So, you know his name. So we got a few minutes. I don't know if we're going to, Jim Halsey is trying to, he's not going to make it. It's okay. We may not get Jim on here. He's driving, trying to get back to the racetracks. We'll see what happens here, but let's give it a second and see if we can't get Jim on. But we're going to get Keith regardless. Keith's already here. TJ will be here in a minute. But I kind of want to touch on this whole thing with the NHRA US Nationals. Mike, we talked about this off the air, but I think it's worth mentioning on the air. I even feel a little bit of a renewed sense of enthusiasm from the NHRA. I mean, if you pay attention to even their own PR campaigns, they're fired up. And that's exciting to me. To be honest, I think that there's this belief system. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, JT, but I think there's this belief that like the Skag Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout is this shot across the bow at NHRA. But it's really not at all. It's a purely complementary happening. However, if the fringe benefits of this situation are that the NHRA is going to be a little bit more outspoken about their promotional efforts, if they're going to have a little bit more fire in their belly when it comes to promoting their own events, and if that is somehow the result of the Skag Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout, I'm here for it. Right. Yeah. I mean, because I'm seeing for the first time in my knowledge, I'm seeing them talk about purses to over $2 million up for grabs at the 69th annual NHRA.
We saw
I've never seen that in a headline before.
For that, a dedicated press release talking about, I think, the size of the field and overall payout.
Do you agree that we've got, and I'm not trying to take credit for this. It's just, I believe it to be true, right? If we're going to be honest on this show, and I'll talk to anybody who wants to talk to me about it. Right? Anybody who disagrees, I'm happy to have that conversation. But we need the NHRA to have a little more pep in their step.
And we even
need the NHRA to be a little bit more, proud of what they're doing, because right here, this guy, these other two cats on screen right now, for years we've been promoting the NHRA, the National Hot Rod Association, and the Professional Drag Racing Series, and trying to do everything we possibly can to pour fuel on the fire in a good way, right? Celebrate the men and women that make this sport what it is. And I'm glad to see them get a little bit up in their feelings about it, right? Because they should be proud. They should be proud that they've got an event that's got 900 entrants. We'll talk to Keith Haney here in just a few minutes and talk about the the reality of 900 race cars on the property. Holy moly. What an incredible accomplishment. You've got people coming from all points of the globe to a single location to do battle on a drag strip that, I mean, is so significant to the sport. I mean, I'm glad to see them get a little, I'm seeing members of the NHRA staff kind of pop off on social, and I'm going, I love it. I love it. I mean,
I think they're in a very unique situation, and I think it's a good situation to be in. And I mean, if the race goes well, they can ride that high, right into their season, and it's already got drag racing will already have a bunch of buzz at that time. And, just go off of it like the World Series of Pro Mod. After the World Series of Pro Mod, I think everybody rode a high into the season, don't you? And 100%. You're not financially invested. You don't have your reputation on your line. Just let it happen. Be supportive of it. And regardless of the outcome, whether it's a fail or a win, you can say, well, we were either there for it, or you can say that's why we're the NHRA, and that's what we do. And you guys need to quit trying to dip your toe in it, or something. But
no, I mean, I pretty much agree. I mean, I don't think that's a possibility, but I do agree with what you're saying. I mean, you got nothing invested,
nothing to lose.
You've got nothing to lose. And I really think that if they were, I mean, the way I would handle it is probably more along the lines of, come on in, the water's warm. That's almost always my answer. I remember this vividly. I was at my dad's birthday party, my dad's house, 23059 State Highway H, Kirksville, Missouri. I was on the back deck. We were barbecuing hot dogs and hamburgers. And I remember getting a phone call, and I'm not going to name him because it would like nuke him. But I remember getting a phone call from this guy who had been a contributing writer to Drag Illustrated. And this would have been in like 06, 07. We hadn't been around very long, maybe a dozen issues, 16 issues, something like that. And I remember getting this phone call, and this cat he says to me, he goes, hey man, I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been writing stories for you. And I just kind of think, if you can put out a magazine, so can I. And I remember saying exactly to him, come on in. The water's warm, right? I mean, like, who am I to tell you not to pursue whatever dream you have? Have at it, right? I mean, it lasted one issue. It burnt to the ground. It was a complete disaster. But you have to have some confidence in what you're doing, right? You have to have some belief that everybody's got a better idea, right? Everybody knows the way to do it or what they would do different. But you know what? Come on in, give it a shot. And I just think that the NHRA, I'm surprised at some of the pushback that we've gotten.
Well, you know what I mean? Because he's going to come on here in a second, and I bet he'll agree. He runs some big dealerships, but I guarantee you, he doesn't tell his salespeople to go out there and run down the other ones in front of the customer, because they see right through that shit, man. It just does. It's not a good look on you.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. And I'm glad you brought that up. Let's get Keith in here real quick. Let me pay some bills. I had a great conversation with Tommy Cunningham last night. We were just talking shop, and I'm reminded of how incredible of a human being he is. So let me tell you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by way of our friends at Stroud Safety, right up the road here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. These are some of the best people the sport of drag racing has to offer, and they are known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. I encourage you guys, log on to StroudSafety.com. Tell them that we sent you. Support the people that support us, because it 100% makes a difference. And by God, they deserve your business. Let's get Keith Haney on here. You know his name, the founder of the Midwest Drag Racing Series, which started out as a Pro Mod centric sanctioning body, but has since grown into something that offers top alcohol funny car, Pro Mod, top sportsman, top dragster, various bracket classes. The new 420 index class that Dave Pierce is behind. Got all sorts of things going on. Keith Haney, what's up, buddy?
And how are you today?
I'm good, man. Are you so where are you at?
I'm at work.
That's not your normal office, though.
Yeah, this is my normal office.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm sorry.
Very standard, very plain, very
well, that's not very Keith Haney. Let's get a fucking mamba or something. Let's get a snake on that door.
Well, there's plenty of that around.
Okay,
good. See some pictures back there. That's probably some winter photos back there.
I think you were talking about NHRA and top sportsmen.
Is this the red car? Oh shit, he just broke
Here you
glass.
go.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the red car. Yeah, man, what's happening?
That's when I won back in 2009.
He's been doing this for a hot minute. Everybody thinks that it's just been since the Donald Long, drag radial days that you've been stirring up the pot in drag. Hey, I want to say something real quick.
Mhm.
What your team is doing this weekend is not lost on myself or anybody at Drag Illustrated. And this is so important. And we've seen this before, but we need to see more of it. Keith Haney and company are towing 1,400 miles across the country from Oklahoma to Cecil County, Maryland to support Jim Halsey and the YellowBullet.com Nationals. And I just think that is badass, man. And I tip my hat to you. You came down, you supported us at the World Series of Pro Mod. I saw you go down to Galen and Clyde's race a few months ago at XRP right down the road from me, Extreme Raceway Park in Ferris, Texas. Your willingness to go support other sanctions and series is not lost on me. That is not something that is commonplace in the sport of drag racing. We need more of it. So I just want here in front of God and the entire world for you to understand that no matter what anybody says about Keith and your big boisterous personality, blah, 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 whatever, you put your money where your mouth is. You support the sport of drag racing. You make hard decisions to support the sport of drag racing. And I appreciate it, buddy. So thank you for doing that, because the Midwest is better for it. And your willingness not to be intimidated by these other events or like put up walls, it's impressive, man. And thank you for that.
Well, I think more than anything is being able to go support another series. I mean, I would like to go to a PDRA race. I think I even said that once before, but if I had the time to be able to go to a PDRA race, I would. I've been to NHRA. I've been to PDRA.
You've been to PDRA.
NMCA, I went there a couple times, but this one's pretty special. I've been wanting to go for the last probably 8 years, and I've not really had a car that, quote unquote, could compete with some of those guys on the East Coast. But now I'm in a different atmosphere, and my car's running really well, and I believe I can go up there on the East Coast. If you take a look at the times that I'm running over on the Midwest, everybody thinks, well, Midwest is slow and the East Coast is fast. You're exactly right. And the only reason for that is barometers, where you at sea level, all these things come into factor. And a lot of people out in the drag racing world, or not drag racing world, but the public doesn't know the difference in just the atmosphere, which changes everything when it comes to drag racing. And in the Midwest, is way harder to run than the East Coast. I'll say that sitting here right now. I'm going to go up there. I believe my 65 pass that I did against Jim Whiteley, which didn't win, but I believe that 65 pass might have been a 62, 61, somewhere in that area, in good air in the East Coast with the barometer and everything. So Jim Halsey's and I are having a little bit of fun right now. We both got the same tuner, but I know my tuner is going to give me everything it has. And if I line up next to Jim and E1, E2, or Q1, Q2, whatever it may be, I know that he's going to give me the race car to beat the guy in the other lane. And he's going to do the same thing for the other guy. So it's just who's better on the tree. I think it's going to happen then.
Do you think that, so you've been 362, like people don't realize that, like, and I'm going to actually like choke you next time I see you. Anybody who says that mid 360s in the 8th mile are slow needs their head examined. Like, because we've got to be like, we have become massively desensitized to how fast these cars are. Like, I mean, because I think we were doing a disservice to everything that happened in Tulsa a couple weeks ago. I mean, you got a slew of really, really fast cars that run as part of the Midwest Drag Racing Series. And that's more, it's just proximity to home, right? Yeah. I mean, Pro Modified is kind of built on the back of people that own businesses, run companies. They're working men and women, and it's hard to tow across the country to Vegas or tow across the country to Charlotte or whatever. So what you've done with Midwest Drag Racing Series is provide a home to a whole slew of racers that wouldn't have had one.
If you take a look at the cost of traveling right now, it's expensive. I can promise you right now, I can give you a roundabout figure what it's going to cost to go to Maryland. By the time you pay your tuners, you do the hotel, you do the trip, you do everything, it's close to 20 grand. And I don't mind the public knowing it. You know, at the end of the day, we're not doing this for a living. We're doing this because we enjoy the sport, and I enjoy the sport. I want to show that, you know, I went down for the, you know, Galen and Clyde Scott moved their race, their Pro Extreme race off of our throwdown weekend because we had a double coming up, and I made a commitment that I would go down to his racetrack and I would run his. Well, I did so, went number one against their Pro Extreme field, went number one and went to the finals and lost to a Nitrous car. Everybody knows who Doug Reister is when you're weighing 150 pounds lighter than me. And I ran at Midwest rules, and we went 62 there. Air was good, track was good, everything was good. So, but I think being able to go to Maryland, I've always wanted to run YellowBullet. It's got that little minding them. The guys do that good job. I've been to U.S. Streetcar Nationals. I've been to the Snowbird. Probably the best thing. I don't know if you've seen it, and if the public's seen it out there, or race fans have seen it out there. World Series of Pro Mod still on the top of my race car. I'm going to run that all year. For the reason for that is at the end of the day, the best of the best want to show up and race against each other. I didn't show up that weekend. Had my instances. I can give excuses just like everybody else does. I didn't show up and show out. Simple as that. You know, next time I show up, if I'm invited, next time I show up, I'm going to show up and show out. And we worked on our program this year to make it better. Now, with Midwest, there's nothing that I love more than the Midwest other than some of the things that I have to deal with on a daily basis. You do it when you're doing the World Series of Pro Mod, or Jim doing it when he's doing YellowBullet, or Donald's doing it when he's doing his races. When you have to make a rule change, it's always the guy that owns it. Frankie, you know, Tommy Franklin, the same thing with him. When there's a rule change made, it's the Tommy rule. It's the Keith rule. And people don't know that a lot of these rules, I'm not doing any of the rules in Midwest. I'm going to give you a little bit of fun because everybody can pick on me if they want. But everybody's saying the rules are being changed for Nitrous. No, it's being changed for parity. Parity at the end of the day is all that matters when it comes to drag racing. Those people who think the Pro Extreme world is coming back, I'm telling you, unless you are funding it 100%, it ain't never coming back. And the reason for that is we have seen now, we had this dream, Wes, you can remember this, 2018 when I started Midwest, you said, what if we could run the same rules across the country? You remember that conversation?
Yeah.
I remember
it's still the
what
dream.
If we could do that? I said, one day, my goal is to have all the classes run together. And if you look at it, things have developed from that moment that you and I talked, which there was nothing out there for that. It developed into NMCA running the same rule package, PDRA running the same close. You have to change it due to barometer. People don't understand that. Barometer and altitude and stuff. You have to change the rules based off combos because one combo may run faster at that barometer than the other combo. So you have to keep it close together. But, you know, right now there was a rule change in Midwest and getting beat up all over the place. That's fine. I'm number 2 in the points. I was number 1 when I went to the last race. I'm number 2 now. So, and number 3 is right behind me. Number 4 is right behind me. And number 1.
How much do you think that, to be honest, I feel like, and we should throw Mike back in this conversation because I remember one of the most, Mike may not want me to bring this up, but he penned an article that was published on competitionplus.com like 100 years ago. And it was like, on behalf of all the nitrous racers in the world, kind of to the IHRA masses, because the high helix, like the roots blown Hemi deal was running away with IHRA Pro Modified, and all these nitrous racers, his father and Mike's team included, Charles Carpenter, were kind of being left in the dust. You know what I mean? Like it was, and I think that the conversation has to include Pro Modified isn't Pro Modified without nitrous cars. And there is a point of diminishing returns, right? Like, I don't know that could we speed everything up and have everybody running way down in the 50? Maybe, but I don't think that improves the situation. Like the magic of Pro Modified And what makes it so special is that you can kind of get in where you fit in. You can do what you want to do. You can be your own guy, right? You can run nitrous, you can run turbo, you can run screw blower, you can run roots blower, you can run a centrifugal supercharger. There's a lot of different ways to skin the pro modified cat. And I think that's the magic. And I think whatever any sanctioning body has to do in order to keep nitrous cars competitive, and this isn't a knock at nitrous cars, it's just like physics, is it not, Keith?
It is.
There's just some certain limitations.
I mean, take a look. You're going to have a nitrous car for the first, I mean, NHRA didn't have very many nitrous cars, I don't think, really at all.
None. One, I think.
And Ricky is going there, and he's going to run nitrous at Indy. Also, if you take a look at turbos didn't have a place to run until Midwest decides to make a rule change that allows a turbo to be able to have an opportunity to win. And I believe Mark Mickey proved that when we lowered. A lot of people don't realize these rules have changed. So weight combos got lowered at the beginning of the year to help individual combos. So in each, like the turbos got 150 pounds off starting off the year. Okay. Now they just got 50 pounds or 75 pounds. Woo-wee. I mean, Mark Mickey was the first one to say, change the rules, because it needs to be, because he's a true love of the sport. He cares about it. You take a look at the 75 over combo. 75 over combo got a rule deduction at the beginning of the year. People forget all these things. And everybody sees, okay, well, I can go take that combo and I can make it do this, right? But when it starts out running the class where your regular racers that come and support you over and over again, if they keep getting beat up by the King Kong, they ain't coming back. They're going to go park their cars. They're going to go get on their boat. They're going to go do something else because they don't feel like they have a chance to come and show up and win. That I want each combo, like I told Lonnie Grimm, who writes the rules for Midwest Drag Racing Series. I think he even helps with you. I'm not really for sure on that.
Yeah, he 100% does.
But he cares about the sport. So we're sending him, people don't realize all this. We're sending them scale sheets that Jeff Holloway does during the race. We're sending them complete, full round by round runs. And he takes a look at those combos. I got a little deal right here, and I printed this for you to kind of talk about it. If you take a look at Mark Mickey's back split on his run, he's won on just about every one of his runs. His back split's pretty much going to stay the same no matter what happens. So a turbo car's got to make it from the 60 foot to the 330. After that, their back split's the same. He went 114.5 almost every single pass. You take a look at Tanner. Tanner and a screw went 120.70 back split pass when those two guys raced each other. Okay.
What did Tanner do? 120?
Tanner went 120.7. Okay. Now that is a screw blown 92 over combo. Mark Mickey was a twin turbo 98 turbos. Okay. He went 114.5. He said it's going to do that every pass. If you take a look at Tanner's and the 92 over, they made an exceptional run against Mark Mickey that round. And they were slow. I mean, they have to make it up in the 60 and the 330. So they needed to pick it up a little bit there. You take a look at the 75 over back split which shouldn't have went 119.1. A back split on a screw 75 over went 119.1. A nitrous car, which was mine, went 119.7 when me and Whiteley ran that last pass. So I just put some numbers together that they go off of back splits, this, that. You know, the back split's pretty much going to be like me. I might run a 118, and we're talking about this is in particular air that was not good. You go put them in good air, their back splits really changed. So, including mine, all the combos change, and the back splits pretty much stay the same. So it's all in the first 60. So your lighter cars are going to run faster, quicker 60 foots. Your heavier car is going to run slower 60 foots, which then creates parity and slows an individual combo up to be able to run with the rest of the combo. So I'm just giving some physics
so like 118 is like an average back split in the mid. And so you got
if you go look at PDRA, nitrous combo, and most of them are going to be 119, 118, 8. somewhere in that back split, you can pretty much look at every one of them and know that, okay, this is where they're going to be. So weight is everything. See, each combo's got their weight, and which slows the combo down early because their back number is going to stay the same. Now, if they lean on it really hard, they're going to blow it up, which, that's not what racers want to do. Think about how much it costs. I just told you what it costs to go to a race. Why do we want to go blow up our stuff? Any combo. I don't care what combo it is. 92, 75, 116, turbo, screw, centrifugals. I don't care. Blowing them up is not worth
the answer.
The reward.
Do you what do you take? And I want to get Mike back in this conversation because we threw him on the screen to talk about rules, and then JT took him off the screen. I don't know if there's some sort of background politics going on. Is somebody mad at somebody, Mike? Is JT mad at you?
No,
I'm just playing. He
and I get going on the same buttons all the time.
No, but what do you make of this whole situation? I mean, do you agree? I mean, as a diehard Nitrous guy, I think you would agree that they need to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm excited about having Ricky at Indy, and I'm curious to see what he runs. When he showed up every time this year, I think the last time was Charlotte. I think he was low and got another rule change put on him. So it's definitely a tough deal. I was really proud of our rules at World Series of Pro Mod and what we were able to put together. I know Keith probably wasn't all that thrilled with them himself, but
I finally had somewhere I could bitch about rules. Okay,
right.
So
it does go.
Wes was like, "I'm not answering his phone call."
I was mad mother.
But it actually does go to what you're saying. It does change throughout different parts of the country, and so I think what works. Everyone likes to point to your combination and your rules. In your weight at Midwest, especially for the Nitrous car, as being an outlier. But if you look at the racing and look at the numbers you just put up and the competitiveness of that series, it works. But if you take that somewhere else, it may not work. So you do have to adjust for where you're running, like you said, barometer conditions. And that was our biggest factor going into World Series of Pro Mod was, all right, we've got this rule set that we think is going to be awesome as long as the weather is what it should be. If it's crazy hot, crazy cold, then we were going to be off. So there's so many variables that go into that. And I think it takes the effort to continually change them and refine them. Now, I know Lonnie and the guys at NHRA have really taken that to heart this year in the NHRA Pro Mod, but you do have to stay on top of it. And back to what Wes was saying about the article way back when, that's what IHRA failed to do in a lot of ways. And I think there was some politics, beyond our pay grade as to why that was going on. But what really killed IHRA Pro Mod, which was the hottest thing going at that time and opened a door for ADRL and for other series, and then subsequently PDRA, your series, is the fact that they did not keep up with the rules and just allowed one combination to become so dominant that you lost that diversity, you lost the different combinations, and it opened up, hey, we should split this deal up. We should go 8th mile racing. Look at what these guys are doing on these Outlaws series. We should do something like that. Whereas before, they really had the market cornered and kind of opened up that door. So we've seen it go both ways. I don't really know which way is the best.
Do you get any pressure, Keith, to split the classes into like Nitrous cars and boosted and Nitrous? I mean, I know you don't have a ton of Nitrous cars, but I'm just curious. Do you?
Well, we had 5 at the last race. We had 5 turbos, 5 Nitrous cars, and the rest were screws and a couple Pro Chargers. So. I get a lot of pressure. I don't know how to politically say it, but I'm never going to take a sponsorship dollar or I'm never going to let money control a rule. Just because you have it makes no difference to me. I don't play favoritism over sponsorships and things like that, right? So I'm not easily moved because, again, this is a Midwest is all about the racetracks. You know how ours works out, where the racetrack gets 100% of everything. We get no gate, we get no nothing. I mean, we're just marketing. Midwest is just a marketing partner for all their partners. That's it. So we live off of our pay, not our pay. I get no paycheck, but the staff gets paid from sponsors, and then everything goes to the racetrack, and we even pay when we show up. But I'm never going to let somebody, hey, I'll give you some extra money, change the rules. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. And
I think there's a lot of magic that happens from, because I understand the argument, like, because Pat Musey is a dear friend of ours, and I know that he hates the notion of racing against turbo cars or blower cars. He wants to race against light combinations, and I totally respect that. But I mean, look at No Prep Kings. Like, look at the stuff that moves the needle. It's all these different, what the nitrous combination and the blower combination and the turbo combination, what that gives you is different flags to wave. You know what I mean? It's a simple.
Different place to race. So guess what? I can not change my combo, and I'm going to YellowBullet. I'm not changing my combo. Now, I may be putting on 25 pounds. Okay.
But not making hard part changes.
But I'm not having to change my combo to go support another organization or race. PDRA, I would have to put snip. I think they got away 24, 25, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd have to put 75 pounds to run over there, which is fine. The barometer in the air and everything. Like I told you, you can add that weight. I'm still going to run the ETs with them guys, because the altitude and all the barometer and all that stuff makes it where I can. So I'd like to have my weight with no barometer and just see what it does, like I tried to get you to do at World Series Pro Mod, but you didn't let me do it.
I know. Trust me. It's so funny. Like, I was arguing with Nitrous guys about, like, it was the funniest thing ever, because they all wanted it. All y'all wanted something different. It wasn't like the Nitrous guys were banding together.
Yeah, nobody says that we can. Nobody said that we can. Nobody said you can get a car at 2,350 pounds. And
yeah,
I think I've proven that wrong.
It's totally hard. Let me ask you this. And Keith, thank you for being a part of this and coming on here and being as candid as you always are. We're super happy for all you've accomplished with the Midwest Drag Racing Series, and we're excited to see what happens next for you guys. But I'm curious, what happens when you put that Black Mamba in the beams alongside Daddy Shark? I mean, do you feel good about that matchup? I mean, I think Jim Halsey is considered amongst the best pro mod racers of all time.
You ready for this?
I think he's probably top 5. Mike, top 5?
I'd say, yep. At this point.
You know what? I've never had a car that I have right now to compete with anyone. When me and Jay ran, when me and Harris ran, all these guys that were Nitrous guys that I ran before, I had some slow mods, is what I called them. and I had the mouth, but I didn't have the car to back it up. Today I have the mouth and the car. And lining up next to Jim Halsey is something that is he's my friend, but it's also, I've never raced him. Never. But I want to. There's some people in PDRA I've never raced, but I want to. Because I know when I line up next to them, I got just as much chance as they do, if not more.
So you've never raced against Jim Halsey? Never had a pass against Jim Halsey, period.
Not even a test pass next to each other.
That's pretty crazy. Awesome. I didn't realize that.
If they line us up together, it's going to be a race like me and Stevie. I don't know if y'all remember Stevie and
yes,
I.
We
were running 390s thinking we were fast, okay? Can you imagine me and Stevie today when I actually have a car that my mouth can back up, kind of like when I went to Donald Long's race and showed up, went number 1 the very first night, never been on a radial tire before. So I don't know if you remember that. 2000.
I do remember it. You won't let me forget it. I try to forget it. I've tried to forget it like 10 times. It'll be 2:00 in the morning. Ring, ring, ring. It's Keith Haney. Hey, you remember that time we were in Valdosta and I showed up with the Black Mamba and unloaded?
No, Enigma. It was Enigma.
It was Enigma. Oh yeah. Enigma. Who came up with that?
Just, it's a sign of power. If you look at the KHR logo, everything.
It seems awkward.
And it's a sign of power.
I like Black Mamba better.
Black Mamba's way better.
Do you have some kind of
don't get in a helicopter?
Do you have like subliminal messaging in your logos and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, is that what we should?
Did you not remember the Notorious car?
Oh yeah,
Notorious Big. That's where that one come from. Everybody wouldn't know me for liking that.
I'll have to look close at your rap. You might have some like Easter eggs there in that rap, in that Black Mamba
probably
rap.
does. It's like
Probably.
Hey, I can tell you right now, if you put, I don't know if you've seen the memes out there. I know it's Shark Week and the Black Mama's hungry. So that's all I know.
Oh man, Keith, I hope you go out there and hold it down for all the boys, all of us in the Midwest, man. Thanks for all you do for the sport of drag racing. Appreciate your time, appreciate your candor as always, and we will let's catch up. You know what? I'm gonna put you on the spot. Let's come back and report in how things went next Wednesday.
Absolutely, we'll do that with the World Series of Pro Mod right at the top of my car in the winter circle.
Sounds like a plan, brother. Appreciate you, Keith.
Hey guys,
hello. We'll talk to you soon.
See you. Bye.
Thanks, brother. All right, guys. I want to remind everybody that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that perform and protect better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think of lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. We're off to the races, guys. I think we got some good stuff out of Haney there. I think he's actually he's a really pretty good interview, and he's talkative, and he'll play the part. He'll play along. He'll give you some stuff to riff on. I don't know. I enjoy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I wish we could have got Jim on here because it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like what Keith was saying, when he goes to the East Coast, goes to a track with that Halsey, obviously he's making laps on weekly. Knows like the back of his hand. That's going to be a challenge for sure. Plus, it's supposed to be really hot. I actually just saw that they changed the schedule. I think they did away with one of their testing sessions or one of their testing days and moved the whole thing up so it finishes Saturday night, I believe, instead of Sunday. I think because that's when it's supposed to be.
JT's head's nodding.
I like it. I like it.
So it's going to be it's going to be hot there. I don't know what kind of barometer Haney's going to get, but. I mean, that's Haney's new nickname, Mr. Barometer.
The barometer.
He said barometer like 74 times.
Yeah.
Him and I, but he's not wrong, because we've talked about that a lot, how he feels. We'll get on the phone late at night one night, and he'll talk about how he just feels a little bit hamstrung by the fact that they race in the summer in the Midwest. And, having relocated from Northeast Missouri to Dallas-Fort Worth, I mean, it's different. You know what I mean? Like 100 degrees in Kirksville, Missouri is way different than 100 degrees in Fort Worth, Texas. And you can't totally discount that. And I tell you, man, he's got a car that's been low 360s. I don't think you can count him out. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I don't know that we've seen him in some high pressure situations, and he's delivered. I mean, he's been in some of those big match races or those big grudge races down at Ducks Race, and he's shown up. And, can he show up against arguably one of the best to ever do it in Jim Halsey, the guy who's got freaking ice water rolling through his veins? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. And
regardless, the best part of it has been the banter back and forth with Halsey. We joked about having Halsey on here. We had a little segment kind of written up for questions. I said, we're only going to need about 5 minutes with Halsey max, because this guy doesn't have much to say, but he does on the track and quite a bit to say on social media as well. And he's really been keeping it going with Haney, and Haney's been barking back at him, and that's been pretty good. We don't see a lot of that. We don't see enough of it, really. We've had the Jay Cox deal and Stevie. Really, it's usually Stevie versus whoever he's barking at.
Or Lyle Barnett versus whomever. Yeah. And I wish sometimes that folks would realize that there's like this isn't rocket science. I mean, these are some guys that are kind of putting themselves out there. Keith's a great example.
Keith does it all the time. Like he does it all the time. And he doesn't, he won't, and yes, it'll be a big pressure deal going into this, but he's pretty used to it, and it's never seemed to bother him at all. Going into those things,
even getting like ripped to shreds by someone
on the internet
never seems to bother him that much.
Nope.
And I think that Keith deserves some credit for that, because he waded into that whole situation with Donald Long way back when, and having the confidence and like the self-belief to like get made fun of and get called names. And I don't think people give enough credit to that. We need more of it in the sport, but the reason we don't see more of it is because people are afraid of the repercussions.
Yeah,
right. They don't want to put themselves out there and then go red light or go, not qualify or whatever. But Keith's going to say whatever Keith's going to say and live with the consequences.
He's been saying it since before he had a competitive car. He even said that just now. And now that he does, he's not afraid to do it. To me, it reminds me of what we say about everybody, how they're like, I know I need to just do social media. I know I need to promote myself, but I'm going to wait till I win a championship first. And then I'm going to start letting everybody know about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, man, you got to show the struggle. You got to start letting people know and building your brand, as we like to say, before that happens. You can't wait until you get the success, because a lot of times you won't ever get there without that as a stepping stone. So,
and I think sometimes it's helpful to put that a little bit of pressure on yourself. Right. I mean, I know that, we've gotten ourselves stirred up in some controversy here lately with me running my mouth the way I do. Biggest. Yeah, I know. Right. Biggest, richest, blah, 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 all those things. What else am I supposed to say? Right. Like, I've got to have that level of belief. Right. I've got to have that level of belief.
I've never seen Indy referred to as the biggest drag race on the planet more than I have the last week. That's kind of their new slogan as a result of things we're saying about the Pro Superstar Shootout.
But I just think that it's
promoter for anything isn't going to go out and talk it
down a little bit. We're hoping to make a dent.
Pretty darn good time over this pretty mediocre deal that we're going to put on.
We're not as big as anything else that's going on, but we're trying. Golly gee willikers. That's not what you're going to do. We're out here and I'm here for it. Like, I'm here. I'll face the music, right? Like, if we drop the ball, whatever, I'll live with it. It is what it is, but that's how these things happen. And again, like, there's nobody else in the sport of drag racing that has my name on their window, right? Keith Haney does, and he's prepared to live with the consequences. Like, he's prepared to be embarrassed if he DNQs or doesn't have whatever. He's prepared to, I mean, he talked about it with the World Series of Pro Mod. He most certainly has a car that should have been in that field. They got a couple of runs behind, and that's all it took to never be able to catch up, right? I mean, you've got the best teams in the world there. They got a couple runs behind, and they couldn't catch up. Melanie Salemi ran low ET of the whole event, the World Series of Pro Mod, in the second chance race. I mean, the non-qualifiers could win anywhere they chose to go, but I think it's incredible that Keith's willing to come on here in front of God and the whole world and whatever else and basically say, hey, we missed it that weekend, but we lived to race again, and I'm going to be just as confident the next time I unload this thing as I was that weekend. We need more of that in the sport of drag racing, really not less.
Yep.
So anyways, guys, we got our next guest in the green room right now. I've known this young man since 2007. I think 2007, I believe our paths first crossed at Montgomery Raceway Park in Montgomery, Alabama. I believe we were at Montgomery. It was beat the heat under the lights at an Orska race, if I remember correctly. And our paths crossed, and I meet this young man that is launching dragcoverage.com, a very well-to-do drag racing news and entertainment website. He has gone on to launch his own career, race very successfully, and most recently put on his own races with the dragcoverage.com Night of Fire in Steele, Alabama. Monumentally successful event over the weekend, 200 plus cars, capacity crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the one, the only, dear friend of ours here at Drag Illustrated, dear friend of mine, the one, the only, TJ Pruitt. What's up, TJ?
How's it going? What's up, my man?
TJ?
We're doing good, man. The polo looks good, except for you're about to blow them sleeves apart.
I was going to say that. You said Halsey has ice running down his veins. I thought I was the only person with ice running down my veins. You need to tell him.
Don't be showing that off, man. I'm really proud of you. When I met TJ, he was this little thin, skinny guy, and I got him on a workout plan, and I'm just really happy to see him, following through.
Mike, it really worked. I love how when I flex, the screen went. And you guys disappeared.
Every time I see him this guy's bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm like, hey, man, at some point.
This is the most awkward thing I'm about to say out loud. I was showing my wife pictures of this guy over lunch. I said, you don't understand. He's built like a Greek god. It's unbelievable, man. Are you on straight horse meat at this point? Yeah.
I tell you what, Luke Bogacki had, he gives us awards at the end of the year. And it was like, best looking racer of the year goes to TJ Pruitt. He's like, I hope my wife doesn't kill me for saying that. But TJ Pruitt,
it, buddy.
I was like, I'm honored. So
when did you put on the first dragcoverage.com Night of Fire? When did because it started in Montgomery, right?
Well, actually, it started in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay,
so
Mobile.
That's kind of where I started drag coverage. So let me kind of step back a little bit. So my whole idea of starting drag coverage was to give the small guy, the local guy, some national recognition. I think it's cool that we see John Force, those guys, John Force. You're talking about Haney. We see these guys on TV all the time, but you never hear about the local guys, your Kenny Scotts, your Edmund Halls, your Rick Roberts, your Doug Roberts. It's on a local. I wanted a platform to give these guys, or at least make them feel like they're getting national coverage as if they were in National Dragster or Drag Illustrated. So that's how I started drag coverage. And I had the same idea with putting racings on. Bracket cars, we race in front of what, 1 or 2 spectators? I thought, how cool will it be if a bracket car, a pro mod, any local racer were to stage and you look down the racetrack and there are fans, grandstands from the water box past the finish line. And I think we've managed to accomplish that. But it started in around Atmore Dragway, Mobile. We kind of got big, and we decided to move to Steele, Alabama, where Jason Collins asked me to come on board and do the Night of Fire there. We've been doing it about 6 or 7 years ago. So, major success.
Man, it's a cool thing to see. Jason Collins is he's all time, right? I mean, he's a guy that does it for all the right reasons. I remember the first time I went to Steele, Alabama, and I was there crewing for Shannon Jenkins. We were testing his car, and it was I got an opportunity to crew for Shannon, the Iceman, anybody who watches this show regularly knows that he's my hero. Still to this day, there's no drag racer that I hold in higher regard than Shannon Jenkins. But anyways,
by the way, he was at Night of Fire.
He's a man amongst boys. Let's be honest, man. I mean, it's just he's the coolest guy. Him and Don Prudhomme have this coolness in a bottle that's hard to really quantify. Yeah. But anyways, man, it's crazy to see all that you've accomplished, and we're so proud of you, man. So for us here at Drag Illustrated, and we've been talking about this more because we did our World Series of Pro Mod in Denver in 17, 18, and 19, but we kind of took a break from putting on our own events until recently and kind of burst back onto the scene. But for us personally, we always wanted to do races. That was always part of the plan, but we knew we needed to build up our coverage platform before we did that because we didn't want to be beholden to other media outlets that we had no control over, right, to promote our events. I feel like you've done something very similar. You built your own following, you built your own platform primarily on social media, right? I know you obviously have dragcoverage.com. You have a really strong social following. Was that kind of the same mentality, TJ?
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. That's exactly how I built up the races. I wanted to build this platform, Drag Coverage, wanted to be big enough so I could promote my own races, use that platform to build a brand. I know earlier with Keith Haney, you talked about brand. I think brand is so important when it comes to drag racing. I mean, let's be real, Wes. People come to races. Yeah, they come to win. They come to win money. I mean, of course, we all want to win money.
Right.
But it's about that recognition, about winning that brand. I won the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod. How does that sound? And the way you build it up, all those things, I've been taking some notes here, all those things you talked about with Haney, building the brand, the banter, all of that stuff plays into that. But yeah, to answer your question, that's basically what I do. I use the brand to promote the races. A lot of times I refer to it a lot of times as like a concert or artist. What does an artist do? They build their brand, they get big. Taylor Swift, by the way, I'm a Swiftie. Don't record that. Oh, what? What's your favorite?
Bro, dude,
Are you really a Swiftie?
Oh, dude, I'm wearing a fucking friendship bracelet. What are we talking about, dude? I'm Swiftie. Hey, listen, me and Taylor, she don't text me back no more, but we're still close, No.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. I went to the concert.
I quit.
Hey, we are taking. Hey, send me your application and all that.
Okay.
Can I have him? Can I have him? By the way,
we work for TJ. You're gonna move to Alabama.
Get rid of JT, and we're getting TJ.
Hey, but you got to be willing to pump some iron now because I left out there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm in.
Damn, well, there goes my opportunity.
My trainer himself, he's quitting on it. But I refer to it like an artist. An artist builds their brand first, and they go and promote these concerts, and they pack the stands, they pack the grandstands with their brand. I kind of see it the same thing like you did with Drag Illustrated and with drag coverage. Build the drag coverage brand, make it something big, and then everyone looks forward to it. Everyone in this Southeast looks forward to the drag coverage Night of Fire.
Yeah, I was going to say that, TJ. I feel like you kind of got that area covered. I mean, you got the Southeast, like here in North Carolina where I'm at, but that's a different area down there, Alabama, that deep South area. And that seems to be where you've got that foothold, and you've really got obviously your event down there, and your base comes from there. Do you feel like that it's important to have the independent regional promoter that kind of takes care of each section of the country?
That's a good question. I really do think it is. I mean, you got Keith, Midwest Pro Mod Series.
Yeah.
Big on that end. I mean, Carolinas, I'm going to be honest with you. One of my favorite Pro Mod Series, the Big Dog Shootout, is the Big Dog Shootout at Piedmont.
Yep.
You got to admit, that's one of the coolest Pro Mod Series I've ever on a Friday. Who's Pro Mod racing on a Friday night?
Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, dog.
Weirder.
Oh, dude, Thursday night. Like, and I agree.
Friday morning sometimes.
Yeah, Friday morning. But what's the shame? And I think sometimes this is a valuable conversation because there's a lot going on in the drag racing world, right? Like trying to put a blanket over this whole space is hard. But what you've done is you've developed your own niche. Like you've got your lane and you've got this group of people that look to you, and we need more of that in our sport, not less. And that you nail the example with Piedmont, because they've built this over the course of 3+ decades where people that's the difference maker in that part of the country. That event stands tall, in my opinion, amongst everything else that's going on out there. And there's a ton of badass drag racing going on in the Carolinas. But I mean, it's important to have, to Mike's point, like someone, and right now it's Rick Moore in the group at Piedmont Dragway, but they've just wrapped their arms around this particular group of people very much the same way that you, TJ Pruitt, have wrapped your arms around, and you got big arms. You've wrapped your arms around this group of people, the Southeast, the Deep South drag racing contingent. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I was feeling pretty good when I came to work today. You know what I mean? Not now. I do not. I no longer feel like I'm in decent shape. But I mean, I think you deserve some kudos for that, man. I mean, because I know the grind that it is. I know the time that it takes. And to have created that opportunity for racers to feel like rock stars, because that's what it's all about. Making men and women that spend their weekend at the drag strips feel good about this choice they've made, right? Because they could do 100,000 other things. Like Keith said, they could go bass fishing. They could go to their kids' soccer tournament. There's so many other things they could do. But the fact that they choose to invest themselves, their money, their time, their energy in drag racing, they need to feel good about it. And that's what you've kind of got. That's what you've accomplished with the drag coverage Night of Fire, is you made these people feel good about making this decision.
And the success of that event is because of the fans, that, and the racers. Because you're right, they can go anywhere. The heat index was 100 degrees. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sitting there on Thursday. I get there on Tuesday night, and I'm saying this is going to be a disaster. If I could just get enough to pay the purses, I will be happy, because I said, I'm not going to show up at 106 degree, heat index. And come rolling out on Friday, I look up Friday. On Thursday night, 30 cars in there. And on Friday night, I look up, the pits are slammed packed. There's nowhere to park on Friday night. And we wake up on Saturday morning. Remind you, 106 degree weather. Yeah. Wake up on Saturday morning. I posted a video today. The line is from the gate all the way to the interstate, 30 minutes before the gate open. But it's like you say, they can go anywhere. They can go anywhere they want. And to be honest with you, I honestly feel like they follow it because the brand and treating people right. So I think it's going to be important as we all work to keep drag racing alive, it's going to be important to take care of the racers and make them feel important. Make them feel like badasses. I had so many people come up to me and they said, you have no idea how it feels to race in front of a crowd. It feels better than racing for 10 grand. You know, there's no feeling like it. So they felt like badasses. They were doing the long smoky burnouts, had Tim Seegers in the Batmobile. Have you seen that car?
Oh yeah, man.
Joker, he's up there before they wave. He's like, they're both staged. They're like, Joker. It is by the way, he won Best Appearing. We give away a Best Appearing award, which to me is simple, but man, everybody's spending hours cleaning their car. But yeah, it's about the brand, making them feel important, but not only making them feel important, but being on a platform and being able to say, you know what, I went on the Drag Illustrated show to talk about not how good I did, how good we did as a team. When I mean by a team, promoter, racers, fans, staff, it takes literally everyone.
You couldn't, I mean, I don't know that you could say it any better, TJ. And I don't know that, like, I feel so, if we don't do anything this week, if I just turn the lights off later today and don't do anything to give you a platform and shine a light on what TJ Pruitt drag coverage and, like you said, that team is doing, we're doing I feel good about that is what I'm trying to say, because this sport is so lucky. Like this sport in many ways, it succeeds in spite of itself. I mean, you're talking about impossibly difficult sport to begin with. I mean, no matter what you're racing, if you're racing a junior dragster, if you're racing top sportsman, top dragster, local index racing, pro mod, shit is hard, right?
In the heat,
not only
like TJ just said,
in the heat,
the weather.
It's 106 degrees.
Right.
And then to spend all the money that it takes, right? I saw a post on social media the other day that for whatever reason just really resonated with me. And it was I think a streetcar guy just asking his friend base, what do you guys like? What's it take to get from your driveway to the racetrack? And all these people were talking about like, well, you know, I typically race at Jerkwater Dragway and it takes me 4 hours to get there. So it's like $800 in fuel there and back. And I got to fill 10 nitrous bottles and I needed to set of slicks. And people were like throwing out these numbers that were like thousands and thousands and tens of thousands. And I thought to myself, there is nothing like drag racing. And the fact that we have so many people that are willing to do this with a smile on their face, towing across the country to do it, can't wait to spend this money. It's special. And to have someone like you that's creating that opportunity in, wherever in the Southeast region where people feel really good about making that decision, we just need more of that. And we need to like pat you on the back and encourage you, because what you're doing is this is how we keep the sport of drag racing alive, is by making people feel good about their decision to go drag racing, because I think that's what's lost. Like at the highest levels of our sport, I can't count the number of, and I'm not trying to like throw anybody under the bus here, but this is all I've ever done. And I think that it's important to like preface this comment with that. Like I've never been involved in stick and ball sports. I've never been involved in anything else. Drag racing is all I've ever done since I was fucking born. This is all I've ever done. And I can't count the number of times that I've talked to racers at big events that just don't feel appreciated. They don't want to win. They know their shit's slow. They know that their program's upside down and on fire, right? They know that they haven't gotten their car out of the trailer for 4 months. But they did buy an entry. They did buy a tech card. They did travel across the country to get here. By God, treat them with some respect. Treat them with some admiration, right? I mean, I see it in our media a lot. Like I see it from announcers sometimes where like a racer's car doesn't start on the starting line, right? Or they pull up to the water box and it won't fire. And it's like the announcers are quick to like jump on. I'm like, oh, tough weekend. It's like, hey man, this guy just busted his ass to get to this moment. And now you're going to make him feel less than. You think he wants his car to not start? You think he thought that battery was going to fail him? Did he know that it wasn't plugged in, or that his kid accidentally tripped over it whenever they were walking around to the back of the trailer and it's been unplugged for 4 hours? No, they didn't know that. And we have to treat these people with some level of appreciation, and we would be blown away where our sport would be if more TJ Pruitts existed, dude. And I didn't mean to go on this big tangent, but it does feel worth mentioning.
No, you got me pumped up. I'm like, all these ideas running in my head because I have to agree with you so much. So this is my perspective. And from my perspective, this is what I'm seeing. You see a $10,000 Pro Mod race or $15,000 or $20,000 Pro Mod race. You may get a minimum of cars to show up. If you get a race that doesn't pay near as much, just say, standard Pro Mod here in the South, $3,000.
Yeah.
You make them feel good. You make them feel really good. You give them the publicity, up until the race, 2 weeks before the race. I'm pumping up Rick Roberts, 20-year-old Rick Roberts and his dad, Doug Roberts. Father-son duo will be at Night of Fire. And everybody's like, oh, my God, father-son duo is going to be at Night of Fire. We got to go check it out. Check it out. Who runs the final round in Night of Fire? Father versus son. Everybody knows about it already. They've seen it on social media. They've seen it on drag coverage. And also, one thing I think we've lost a little bit of, Wes, is promoting drivers instead of cars. I feel like when you promote the driver, too, it builds like a personal connection. And so this father and son duo that I promoted, they get to the final round, 386 versus 384, side-by-side action. Rick Roberts, the son, spins around the finals. He doesn't hit anything. But just building that atmosphere of feeling important, like you mentioned, in my opinion, giving them that publicity is more important than the money. Let's be real. Do they race for money? Do you think they race for money? Let's be real.
No, they don't. And I'll tell you
and
this.
I know you pay big bucks on that.
No, but I mean, you're right. I mean, I'll pull back the veil a little bit. So like we literally this week had what is today? But yeah, this week we've had multiple discussions about increasing the purse for the World Series of Pro Mod. And we have some pathways to pull that off. It's $100,000 to win right now. But I tell you what, man, it don't matter. There are better things we could do with that money. Buy nicer jackets we get jackets for everybody that accepts an invitation to the World Series of Pro Mod. We get, we do more of that type of thing because you'd be better off. One of my favorite stories, and I haven't told this in a long time, is I remember I was at, and I've got to be careful of naming names here because people are sensitive. But I remember being at let's just say it, an ADRL race a long time ago, and it had changed hands a handful of times or whatever, right? And it was kind of in that tumultuous years of ADRL. But anyways, there was this moment where a friend of mine is a chassis builder. Built a car. He'd been I'm just going to name names. So Rick Jones built a pro Nitrous car. They were a pro stock chassis builder, right? RJ Race Cars had built their brand on the back of primarily NHRA Pro Stock and IHRA Pro Stock drag racing. And they've obviously had tons of successful sportsman cars, but that was kind of like their flagship Pro Stock. But they saw the writing on the wall. They recognized that Pro Modified was like next man up. And so they decided collectively that they were going to build their own Pro Mod car. They built a blue 69 Camaro, really good looking hot rod. Ricky Jones Jr., Rick's son, was going to drive it. And it was this whole deal. And they were basically, their goal was to demonstrate that they could do this successfully and use that as a catalyst to obviously sell more Rick Jones built Pro Mod cars. And they qualified number one at the ADRL event that was in Maple Grove, Pennsylvania. This has been 100 years ago, right? And it was a huge moment for them, right? Because if you think about it, they don't have a Pro Mod pedigree. They've got a Pro Stock pedigree. So they've brought this whole new kind of approach to racing, to 8th mile outlaw drag racing. And they finally had this huge successful moment, right? And there was this whole kind of situation unfolded where the ADRL sends over their staff photographer and their sponsor liaison or whatever, and they go over and they say, hey, we're going to get a picture of you guys, Rick and Ricky and the crew with their blue Camaro, and they're going to give them their number one qualifier plaque, right? And so they take the photo, they hand him the plaque, and Ricky's holding it, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, cheese, number one or whatever. And so then the photo gets taken and the photographer goes, hey, give me that plaque back. And Rick Jones goes, what do you mean you want this plaque back? And they go, oh, you racers don't care about plaques. You just want to check. That's just a photo prop. right?
Yeah.
We're going to use. So what they had done up until that point was they had used the same plaque for everybody, right? Because it was just a prop. And Rick Jones wouldn't give it to him. He said, no, I'll have that money, that check, $500, $1,000. We'll have that spent before we get out of here. You know what I mean? All I want is that plaque because it'll hang on the wall of our shop for 100 years and we'll show it to people. This is the time we qualified #1 in Pro Nitrous. And I think that's a lesson for every promoter out there that it's not always about the money. Like we use the money. Like, so with the World Series of Pro Mod, we use the $100,000 because it's a marketing spend. My thought is I can either pay this money to my racers who I want to get the money, or I can spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in advertising locally, right, to generate that level of interest.
Yes.
Because that big number moves the needle. It just does. When you start throwing around big numbers like that, you start to get some interest from the local media that doesn't care about motorsports because they're going, oh, 100 grand, they're having some sort of race for 100 grand. So for me, it's a tool, and I would rather give it to my racers than give it to radio stations and TV stations, right? Or Facebook and Google. But it's not all about the money. It's really not. It's about the plaque. It's about that 4x8 Happy Gilmore check. It's about the jacket. It's about the trophy. It's about the photos. I mean, you sent me the photo of Michael Neal, who ended up winning, the legend himself, Michael Neal, who ended up winning your race. Like, it's more about those moments and holding up the check and holding the trophy, getting a photo with TJ Pruitt, right? I mean, you've got to find ways to put more emphasis on that than the money.
Let's be real. It took them way more money to get that than what they won. I mean, that was nothing. But you're right, Wes. Everything you're saying is what I've been focusing on. I spent a lot of dollars on advertising. Spent a lot of dollars promoting them on drag coverage. And that's one thing I want to work on even more moving forward is the experience. I think the experience is very important.
Agreed.
The best. I mean, I can't even describe the feeling of being in that winner circles when I'm handing them. I have this, what we call the drag coverage golden check. It's this beautiful check to hang on the wall. And man, I have been trying to get one of these for so many years. The legend, we're talking about a legend, Michael Neal and his dad, Mike Neal, standing there saying, they didn't say, give me the money. What did they say? I have been trying to get one of these to hang on the wall forever. That money is going to.
Them old boys fitting to put that in the living room.
Right. It's so funny though. In the final round, he's running Hank Stubbs, and Hank's got a bad hot rod. 367, 207 miles per hour at Steel, local track. He comes back first round of qualifying, blips the gas, goes 390 at 200 something miles per hour. So in the final round, Hank's staged up against the legend. You know, Michael Neal. What is he going to do? The crowd is full on both sides.
So he does a burnout to the scoreboards.
Burnout. How'd you know?
Because that's the way God intended. He's trying to get into heaven, dog. You know what I mean?
They leave the starting line, final round. Now you check this out. They're racing for, I would think, nowhere near nothing will pay for the bills, but they are trying to get that win, that recognition in the winner's circle of the drag coverage Night of Fire. The biggest pro mod race that these local guys, the bracket racers, the index racer, in my opinion, the biggest race that these guys attend all year long. They look forward to it. So it's a pedal fest. Neal literally blows the door off to take the win. He blows the door off to win. So I say all that because we turned the car around in the winner's circle photo because the door is off of the car.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I reach up and I hand him this check and I said, congratulations. And the smiles and the family is high-fiving that moment of being in the winner's circle, and there's thousands of fans sitting in the background. It's about the experience, Wes. I think we're forgetting about the experience. We're not spending I think it's going to be important moving forward to spend time on the experience. There's some things I want to do next year, like I think Galen Rollis and a lot of the bracket promoters like Peter Biondo and Cal, they do a good job. I'm speaking bracket racing because I got to give bracket racers some love while I'm on here.
Absolutely, man.
They do the experience. You ever seen those? Have you ever seen their winner's circle?
Oh, I know. They got the girls. And to Peter Biondo, the way they do the spring fling, he's got a limo there to take them downtown on the strip in Vegas and put them up in a suite. And you nailed it because that experience. So this is what I tell anybody that's a promoter. and they ask me like for input or advice, and I think this is an important thing to remember. People don't remember what happened. No. They remember how they felt.
Yes.
That and that can extend to your wife. Like, so say your wife gets accosted at the gate. That no matter what happens at that race, Kenny Bernstein runs 340 or Frankie Taylor goes 345 in the 8th mile. It don't matter. Right. They treated your wife like shit, and you're rebuild. Like, I mean, you know, if you made a wife mad, you know what I mean? And it's funny because I use that extreme of an example because people don't remember what happened. They remember how they felt. How they felt. And you have to, you know, you're only going to have one winner, right? There's only one Michael Neal. So for us, the challenge every time we put on a race is how can I make sure the guy who doesn't qualify or the guy who loses in the first round feels good, right? And that's a big, big challenge. That's an uphill battle. But if you're at least considering that, you're 100 miles ahead of everybody else, because that is so important to make sure, like you said, the experience matters so much, man.
So one thing that I do, Wes, to improve that experience, I get there, my race is Thursday, Friday, so it's like a 3-day race. I get there on Tuesday, and I mark off the first 2 to 3 rows. And I say, these rows are going to be Pro Mod. And I escort every single Pro Mod to the front row. So, yeah, you've got the Pro Mod guy that he's got the small trailer, he's got a motorhome, or he may have a gooseneck. He rolls in and says, hey, TJ, I'm running Pro Mod Nitrous. I grab on my scooter, come here. Take the caution tape off. Here's your parking spot, front row. He knows he can't compete. A lot of these guys know they can't compete with the 959s and such. But this guy is parked on the front row in the middle of Mike Neal. You've got Tim Seegers, Hank Stubbs with the blower guys. You know, it's the experience.
Right?
That's
I mean,
it
really
good.
is.
He's like,
I mean, you can't assume that they're going to win. And here's the other thing, that even sometimes when people do win, this is something that I see like still fairly frequently right now, is that there's we get a little desensitized to the fact that like the guy who does win, this may be the only time he wins.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's something I think is lost on some folks sometimes, is they've been around people that win a lot, or they've been around people that have had a lot of success in drag racing, and they don't realize that the bulk of people, the majority, have gone to the same racetrack for 15, 20 years in a row and probably never won a race, maybe never won a round. So when they do win a race, you are, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, you owe it to that person to treat it like Jesus is back. You have to treat it like the biggest thing ever, because they may never experience this again. They may never, ever get their photo taken in the winner's circle again. So when they do, it's on you to make sure that it's the most unforgettable experience of their lives. And we joke about it all the time. Like in NHRA, they do a good job with their winner circle, and they do, you know, for the most part. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be improved, but that is enough of a hubbub, enough of a big deal that we joke all the time. Somebody wins a Wally, you can pretty much count on them drag racing for another 4 or 5 years without question. You know what I mean? Because that gave them enough juice that they're going to keep chasing it for 4 or 5 years because they got that one W. And I can't give you enough credit, TJ. And I watched it from afar. Like, we've not been as close as we probably should have, because we line up on so many things. And, you know, obviously I've been paying attention to everything you do for a decade now, over a decade.
Same here.
But I'm proud of you, man. I don't know. I'm not here to be that guy that's like proud of you, but I genuinely am, because we need more people such as yourself that truly love this stuff, truly love the people, right? That make this sport what it is, because that's really the difference. Like, I've been blessed to do a lot of things in my life and meet a lot of people. This is a special community. It really, really is. And to have people like you that are willing to spend their own money, their own time, stick their neck out, take a chance in an effort to benefit this sport, man, thank you. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Wes. That really does mean a lot. I think moving forward, we have a lot of challenges ahead. Let's be real.
Yeah,
drag racing, the economy, everything which impact drag race, we have a lot of challenges ahead. And one thing, and I want to give this, hopefully everybody's listening to this, I think it's going to be very important moving forward that we work together. Tracks work together. Operators work together. Everything that you and I are talking about today, sharing best ideas, it's going to be very important moving forward that I don't want to be the best. I mean, I'm going to do the best I can, but I want to ensure every promoter around me is important and is successful, because if they are successful, everybody's successful. So I think it's going to be important moving forward that we really work together to get it done.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that has been at the heart of really everything we've done at Drag Illustrated in the last year or so, is really trying to lean into collaboration. I saw a meme on social the other day, and it said, the people at the bottom compete, the people at the top are collaborating. Mm-hmm. And I agree with that, because what we're trying to do, like we just announced a few weeks ago, the Skag Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout, our first Drag Illustrated's first foray into nitro racing. We've got a $250,000 up for grabs in Top Fuel, $250,000 up for grabs in Funny Car, $125,000 up for grabs in Pro Stock. And people
I hate that y'all announced that. I'm trying to sit in the meeting and I'm sitting there like, crap, these.
I apologize.
You know, as a website owner, you got insights. What the hell are they about to announce?
Yeah. Right. No, and it was like, so, and people, you know, a lot of attention's been put on like, oh, it's just Top Fuel. Oh, it's just Funny Car. It's the same old. It's just big money. What you're missing is the level of collaboration that's happening. And that's what we're excited about. Is I've got Pro Stock team owners talking to Top Fuel team owners. I got Funny Car team owners talking with Top Fuel team owners, and Pro Stock. Like we're tearing down walls, and we're creating an era of collaboration where people recognize exactly your point. We can accomplish a lot more together than we can as these individual little beacons out there. Like we have to work together, because there's a bright future out there for the sport of drag racing, but I don't think we're going to achieve it as quick as we could if we're all swimming in the same direction and we're all in lockstep. That it's like what's good for TJ Pruitt and the Drag Coverage Night of Fire is good for the World Series of Pro Mod, which is good for Midwest, which is good for NHRA, which is good for YellowBullet, which is good for PDRA, which is good for NMCA. Like there's enough to go around, and there's been a scarcity mindset permeate drag racing for 100 years, where every sponsor, everybody is so up in arms about everything. Well, they're going to try to come after our sponsor. Oh, they're going to try to come after our racers. Guys, there's enough to go around, yes, right? Absolutely. I mean, most of the chassis shops, most of the manufacturers that I deal with can't keep up. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? These guys can't build enough motors. They can't build enough race cars. Every time I get on social media, I'm seeing, you know, glamour photos of the next badass X275 car.
Oh my God. There's a new car that comes out every week. It's unbelievable. Right? Yes.
So like why?
And people are spending the money. They're spending it.
It's unbelievable, man. Well, so real quick, before I let you go, you've been racing yourself. So what have you been racing? Because I've seen you with like a Vega, but I've also seen you with like a Pro Charged big tire Camaro.
I'm all over the place, to be honest with you. So I started off bracket racing. I started off with a rear engine dragster. I thought that was cool. Then I upgraded to a Pro Charged dragster that I bracket race. It's 410s, 420s bracket racing. And I'm going to tell you, Wes, bracket racing going fast is friggin'. Then I raced it and I thought, this is pretty stupid. I want to drive a slow door car. So I bought a slow door car, bracket race. So I bracket raced two cars, and I bought a Pro Mod. It's built by Douglas Klein, precision chassis.
Oh yeah, builds like Mike Hill's stuff. Yeah,
that's right. Oh, so you know, my God, one of the best fabricators out there.
Great guy.
So I have that car. It's called Thriller, but small tire. So I parked Thriller, the Pro Mod, because they're big tire is a little bit slow. That's one thing I want to talk with you about offline is trying to build back Pro Mods. I was listening to you and Keith about all the rules. We're having the same issues in the South. I think everyone's having issues with rules.
Hard. It's really hard.
Wes, I've sat down for hours and hours brainstorming. I don't know a solution. Does anybody know a solution? How do you fix rules? I mean,
it's hard. I mean, and it's so we should bring Mike back in here, because Mike's been a big part of like these regional rules and stuff, but it's just hard because like you could set the rules however you want them, but then you throw like a Todd Tutterow in the mix and you've nuked it. You know what I mean? Or like, you know what I mean? Like it's very tough because you build rules on max performance, right? And not everybody's able to get to that max performance level. Not everybody's willing to run their stuff on the ragged edge. It's not easy.
But
really
this is
not.
the thing. I had a conversation with Nick Andrews. He runs the Nitrous Association down here that I use. We had 22 Pro Mods on the property. 22. Actually,
which is fantastic.
24 Pro Mods at Night of Fire. 24. And we're thinking about, we're trying to talk about these rules. Should you have the trash man, Ralph Eddington. You know, the last few years, he's raced some Mike Hill cars. He wasn't your top performer. And Trash Man says, I'm going to sit out a year and a half. And when I come back, he says, I'm in my 60s. I forgot how old Ralph is. But when I come back, I want to be competitive. He sat out a year and a half. He bought one of Randy Weatherford's old cars. Big motor, big Nitrous. Comes back, wins the Nitrous, Southern Nitrous Championship. Sets the bar high, starts running quicker, a tenth or so.
I know this guy. He won the Southern Nitrous Racers Association Championship. I know.
That's right.
Okay,
that's correct. You know Ralph. We call him the Trash Man.
Okay, I never heard him called that, but now I like him even more. Okay.
Should we penalize racers for wanting to be the best and get the best equipment and try to run as fast as they can? It seems like we are, which I get it. I get it. You have to have some rules, or you're going to have one car outrunning everybody. So that's what I struggle with. I'm on both sides of the fence. Here you go, Ralph. Ralph takes a year and a half off to build his program out, research, get all these people to help him, blows the field away. Well, not completely blow the field away, but
I know what you mean.
A lot faster. So the rule thing, I don't know what to do. I've been asked to put together a blower association for the South because there's such a big gap between, you got your Hank Stubbs running 367, and then you have like your big money Bill Clanton. He's a root scar. He goes 380s.
What did Bill run? 380s?
Yeah, he's a 380s, 390s car consistently.
Okay.
You got the Batmobile, but Bill Clanton and the Batmobile, Tim Seegers are two of the fan favorites.
Right.
You put those guys on a flyer, thousands of spectators are going to come.
Shit, I about came when I saw Bill Clanton on the when I saw Big Money on there. I'm like, oh my god, I guess I'm going to Steele, Alabama this weekend.
I know. So we got these cars. Race. Most of the fields going 389, and then Hank Stubbs just blast through 367, 207 miles per hour. How do you fix that gap, Wes?
I'm bringing Mike in. Mike, what do you think about that? Because this is a real challenge, right?
It is. And I need help, Mike. I need help. I'm going to help next year.
Mike, I can't help you with those blower cars, man.
Oh, I know. I've talked to Andy Pinkerton. Wes, I know we're trying to go. I don't know what time we have. Wes, we met in Montgomery, but we really got to know each other in one of the NHRA races.
Where were we at? When you were hanging out with
staff member.
Tim Tyndall.
I was doing Tim Tyndall's media, and Wes was walking around with the paper magazines. Hey, check out, this is my Drag Illustrated magazine here.
I think you came to St. Louis.
I went to all the races
with Tim, didn't you?
Yeah.
Tim
fly me
when it was the bulldozer
was
still on the side, right?
That's right.
Before the deal with
Mike Ashley. We teamed up with Mike Ashley, then Corey Coughlin was driving the car and all. That's when we really got to know each other. But Mike, I know what the answer is. I've been asked. I've talked to Andy Pinkerton, who was on Tim Tyndall's team. The screw car is going to be only so many % over? I don't know.
Back to what I was talking about with the NHRA. In my experience, you tend to set the rules, or at least in history, the rule makers set the rules based on what the fastest cars are running. The quickest cars are running, and that to me is kind of where the mistake starts. I think you've got to try to do something to bring the back of the field up a little bit, and you got to do something to slow your top guy down. But usually it's just like, well, that's what that combination can run. So all the other combinations, we got to make the rules so that they can run that. And everybody in the NHRA world now, and in the really across the board, Pro Mod's kind of almost gone to a situation where we're running all these combinations together, and we've had to slow all of them down with weight and with overdrive and whatever else. And I think one of you guys said it earlier, the days of just running no rules, Pro Extreme, Pro Nitrous are over because of the gap between those combinations. And that no one has, outside of Frankie Taylor and Doug Reisterer, there's no one else on the planet that has those combinations anymore. Everybody's got a legal car that's built to NHRA specs with all the safety equipment and the weight and everything. So you've got to build a combination, I think, that meets somewhere in the middle. And that was always our complaint. You're talking about that letter that I wrote way back when. That was actually our complaint in that letter was don't set your rules, because Shannon Jenkins and Mike Castellana were only a few numbers behind Audi and whoever else was out there crushing it with a blower at that time. But then the rest of the Nitrous field was 5, 6, 7 numbers,
5, 6 numbers behind them,
behind Shannon. And so we were saying, look at the rest of these Nitrous cars. You got 2 cars that on a good day can be competitive with these blown cars, but then you've got 8 or 10 others that can't even be competitive with those 2 guys. And so you know, I don't know how to handle it, and nothing's perfect. We caught a ton of shit for that back in the day, and we kind of have always looked at it from that perspective. Well, if you told Shannon or Mike that, they're not going to like that perspective. So everybody kind of comes at it from a different angle, and it's honestly the hardest part about Pro Mod, but it's what makes Pro Mod Pro Mod.
But Mike, what about the guys that have the same equipment as the guys that are going fast, but just not going fast?
Well, then you go to the fact that they're not leaning on it enough. That's and I don't know what you do about
but they don't have not only just not leaning enough, they don't have the knowledge, or they just haven't figured it out,
or don't have the spare parts.
It's like Arnold. You know what? You know who will appreciate this is TJ Pruitt. It's reps and sets. That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger says.
More reps.
Exactly. But it's true. I mean, it's like whenever I get frustrated because I'll talk to a team and they want to like compare themselves to Todd Tutterow. They want to compare themselves to Stevie Jackson. I said, well, what were you doing yesterday? And they're like, well, I was at work or whatever. And I'm like, well, Todd was testing, and you're never going to narrow that gap until you're putting in the same number of reps and sets that he is. I mean, it's just, that's a real tough one, TJ, and I think that's a tough pill for people to swallow. But like, if you go buy the latest, greatest shit and you're not as fast as Randy Weatherford, or you're not as fast as whatever, clearly there's a pathway to get there, right? I mean, they've got the same stuff you do, but they're just spending more time on it. And but the problem that I have is that I don't think Racer B, who's doesn't have the time to test on a Tuesday, I don't know that they should get, like, I hate to see them penalized, because I recognize that that's really who props our sport up.
Right.
You know, because there's a whole lot more Racer Bs, you know what I mean, that have the money.
They drive their rig to the track. They drive their rig to the track. They get out, they work on it. Then they have to jump in the driver's seat and drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, and that's a different, it's as challenging. I think that we spent well over 100 hours trying to come up with the World Series of Pro Mod rules. And it's like, and it was the greatest challenge of that whole race, not coming up with the money, not promoting it.
The rules.
It was the rules. And
I can believe that.
I look at all these sanctions and series that, you know, do this week in and week out, and I tip my cap to them, because it's a thankless job. It's a real significant challenge. It requires thick skin. It requires some ability to kind of remove yourself from popular opinion. It's hard. There's no doubt about it, man. But I think what you're going to be tasked with is just having an open mind. That's probably the thing that can serve you the best in that situation, is just being with. I think the most important thing to do is listen to everybody, but you don't have to like take what they say for fact, because racers, I joke, like, what radio station do racers listen to? WIIFM. What's in it?
I think that's 3 or 4 weeks in a row we got that.
Oh my God, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that say this is what the rules should be. You go look at their car, it's their car. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's
I mean, we heard it all the time. Yeah, I remember the first year I went to PRI, and I should have taken notes. The first ever year that we set up at PRI as Drag Illustrated, 2006, I go to this trade show, and every person that came to the booth said the same thing. You know what's wrong with that magazine of yours? And I'm like, oh no, what? Not enough of my car. Not enough of where I race, not enough of the track I race at, not enough of the sanction I race at. You know what I mean? They all said the same thing. Not enough of me.
And that's the challenge of a national deal. And that's why we go back to the regional thing, like what TJ's doing, like what Keith's doing. I kind of think that's our theme for today. But speaking of, got to get back to it. this guy
Wow.
is also like a nuclear engineer or a electrical engineer or something. Total genius. Yeah. What TJ, I'm sure he's got something to go, some world's problems that he's got to go solve today. So
Yeah,
we've taken up enough of his time here today.
Hey guys, this has been great. I'm so glad I got to catch up. I guess I will see you at the Drag Illustrated after hours show. We can get on.
All right, dude. We will turn it up. We'll turn it up.
Thanks so much, guys, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. So
no problem, buddy.
Y'all have a good one. Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon, brother.
All right,
Stay out of trouble. All right, let me pay some bills real quick, Mike, and we will wrap this thing up. Ladies and gentlemen, the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by way of our friends at FlowRacing.com. If you're a drag racer or a drag racing fan, you got to get on board with FlowRacing, the world leader in sports live streaming. FlowRacing provides unlimited access to drag racing's biggest events like Donald Long's Lights Out, No Mercy, and Sweet 16. Every stop on the PDRA and NMCA tours, Funny Car Chaos, World Cup Finals, Streetcar Super Nationals, the World Series of Pro Mod, the forthcoming Skag Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout, and much, much more. Personally, Flow Racing is a fixture in my life. I'm able to follow along with multiple racing events from the comfort of my own home or while I'm on the road. The platform provided by Flow Racing is changing the sport of drag racing for the better, and there is no limit to the good they can do here. So log on to flowracing.com today and join the movement. Mike, we were supposed to talk about, I've got 20 minutes of topics here. Factory X, Nitro Olympics, Stevie Jackson's return, Angelle Sampey, Cruz Pedregon's open house.
Let's talk about
this or punt.
Let's talk about the Indy ones first. Let's talk about Factory X coming back or finally going to get to see after a lot of talk. Yeah, side-by-side competition, 4-car shootout with Factory X. Kind of slid in there, I think just a few days ago, I think is when the release came out, in addition to all this stuff that's going on at Indy. But what do you expect to see out of that?
Man, I think we're going to see like some mid 6-second, 200+ mile an hour runs out of what I think a lot of people believe is like this reincarnation or next generation of pro stock. There's been a lot of people kind of hollering for this for a long time. All these cars have like 600-ish, 630, 650 horsepower, factory-built engines, right, from Chevy, Ford, and Dodge. I think that, however, backed by a clutch and a manual transmission, Liberty 5-speed on a 10.5W tire. I mean, there's some real magic to what they're trying to do. These are steel roof and quarter cars. They look like real cars. They set like real cars. We saw Greg Stanfield make kind of like the maiden voyage for these cars at the NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Nationals in Norwalk a few weeks ago, or a few months ago at this point, actually. But I'm excited for it, man. I'll be up there. I want to watch. I think this is a cool thing. I don't, it's an interesting thing because it feels like it's probably, I don't see it as a replacement to pro stock. I
think that's what it was envisioned as initially, but I do see it as something different now. And it's taken a little while for it to get off the ground. I think when it was first announced, we thought we were going to see this much sooner than we have. And I think they've encountered some challenges. I think didn't Jeff Turk crash one of these testing it. Green. So there's going to be like some growing pains before it really takes off. But I think maybe this will be a great launching point for it. To me, the key is that we've got a Dodge in the field, 2 Camaros, and a Ford Mustang. So it's not 4 Camaros. It's not whatever. So it's, factory representation across the board, which I think is probably the biggest complaint of what we've lost in pro stock.
Yeah, I can't argue. I think it's really important. There's a part of me that goes, I don't really care what brand. I understand that being a part of the storyline. I'm excited to see.
It's a huge part of the story.
It is
for the casual
fan. For the casual fan, it's a big deal. Like they want to wave the Dodge flag.
Casual is probably not the right term, but people that really do want, like, align themselves
that are brand loyal.
Yeah,
which is, I would have to believe, the bulk of the automotive community fancy themselves brand loyal, from Tesla. Right? Like, I think people are proud that they drive a Tesla. They're proud that they drive a Dodge. They're proud that they drive a Chevy or a Ford or whatever the case may be. So I do think it tickles that fancy, so to speak. And I think it just gives, if they can keep, it's obviously this stuff is so crazy expensive that it's hard to talk about it being budget friendly, because I don't think that's necessarily accurate. But I think if they can keep it quasi under control and see it as something of like maybe a stepping stone to pro stock, where what I think would be, man, would be fantastic is to see this become like maybe a developmental class for pro stock, where like this is the class you go run to get comfortable. I was talking to some pro stock team owners over the weekend, and they were talking about the pressure they put on their drivers. They're like, what we're asking these people to do is hard. Like, we're asking them to be within a few RPM on a shift point. It is not for the faint of heart, and it is it's dramatically different than anything else that happens in drag racing, right?
Yep.
I mean, it really is. I mean, these are some of the only cars that still exist on a professional level where shifting gears is a part of the program, right? And I think if Factory X becomes a place where they can like kind of practice that ritual and go through those motions and ultimately move up to it, it would be cool to see KB Titan fielding a Factory X car or two, see Elite Motorsports fielding a couple, maybe see Mason McGahe's family, Chris McGahe fielding one. I mean, I think that could be a really cool concept. I'm excited.
We've seen a push in that direction, kind of with the top alcohol ranks, basically
Agreed.
being a developmental situation for a lot of nitro hopefuls.
Yeah.
And then also JCM, the Maynard group with their developmental program that they're launching as far as getting drivers introduced to the sport. So maybe we'll see some convergence on all those fronts. Another thing, Stevie Jackson making his return at Indy. What do you expect to see out of that?
I don't think he'll miss a beat. I think this is huge for the Fuel Tech NHRA Pro Mod Drag Racing Series presented by Type A Motors. They need, I hate to say it, I mean, I just, you need characters. We just spent like the last 2 hours talking about how important it is to have these people that are willing to put themselves out there and kind of do the dance of being a professional race car driver. Pro Modified in the NHRA Pro Modified has lacked this in 2023. I'm here to say it. They've got some great racers, but they've got a bulk of racers that earn their living doing something else, right? Running their own business, whatever the case may be. I think it's important to have Stevie back in the mix. I'm anxious to see kind of how the whole thing plays out, because I have to believe, I think we're seeing a different, and I'm putting, this is purely my opinion, but I think we're seeing a different Stevie Jackson in 2023. You're seeing a guy that's looking at life through the lens of a business owner. I think historically we've seen Stevie Jackson looking at life through the lens of a race car driver. I think at this point he's got this big shop he's building in Georgia. He's running Sidney Frigo's NHRA Pro Mod team. Let's be honest, like that was rare air not that long ago. Like you had to be Al Billis, Mike Janis, Proline, Jimmy Rector, right? I mean, like that was a big task. And if you were the one that was entrusted with running someone's NHRA Pro Mod Drag Racing Series operation, that was the focal point of your effort, right? I mean, that was something that a lot of people have tried to do and I'm anxious to see how it plays out, right? I mean, because I think he's going to have to focus on his customer, which is Sidney Frigo. And I'm just anxious to see how that whole thing works.
Yep. And jumping back into the seat and balancing those other things, doing a podcast now. Also, he's got a lot going on. And to me, the thing about NHRA Pro Mod just comes to mind, thinking about Stevie, thinking about Sidney Frigo, Justin Bond, Khaled Belushi. I almost feel like I don't know what car and what combination these guys are going to show up in from week to week. We've seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot of bouncing around. The substitute driver rule, all these things have made, while they may be the right solution in some ways, have made consistency and knowing who's showing up with what a thing of the past when it comes to NHRA Pro Mod. I feel like Ricky might show up, but it's just, there hasn't been a lot of continuity for the year. So we'll see that going into the playoffs. In my
humble opinion, I think there has been a lack of continuity, and I think that's a fantastic observation, Mike, like that you deserve credit for, because throughout all of 2023, you didn't know what car they were going to be driving. You didn't know who was going to be driving the car that we're talking about. That carousel of people, carousel of cars, to in my opinion, has contributed to like an overall lack of identity.
And I,
right?
and I
Because
actually think
you don't know who it is. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know what they're going to be driving.
Yeah, someone that shows up every week or to all these races has committed to it with the same combination, the same car. Doug Winters, we've heard has withdrawn from the event.
He has. It's official. I mean,
as far as we know, partly in protest of this exact situation we're talking about. So I think you do have a little bit of a maybe for next year. Which way do we go with NHRA Pro Mod? I would say it hasn't been successful, and I feel like everyone that races NHRA Pro Mod is mostly happy with the way it's gone. From the outside, I think that it has been a little bit tough to follow. It's been scattered in a lot of ways. So maybe we'll get Stevie back behind the wheel of a blown car for sure. Have some continuity going into the playoffs, which is new this year also for Pro Mod with the playoff system.
Yeah, I think it's a cool thing. I think they've done a lot of things right, but I totally appreciate the effort, right? Like, because that's the thing. And I do feel that, from the outside looking in, based on what I'm hearing about where NHRA is going to be parking Pro Modified at the U.S. Nationals this weekend, I feel like the NHRA is embracing Pro Mod at a level that they haven't historically, and that's exciting. I think that's a positive. But I do think that, these are growing pains. And that's the thing is I encourage anybody that's willing to swing the bat, willing to take a chance, right? Willing to take a calculated risk. But I also I think all those aforementioned people that are willing to take a chance, like they have to be willing to go, okay, or that one didn't, like, just because that's what we chose to do doesn't mean that that's what we have to stick with. Because personally, I'm not sure how I feel about the substitute rule. You and I have been back and forth on this. An argument can be made that the substitute driver rule has produced more cars and more consistent participation across the board, like as far as rigs and cars in the pits are concerned. But I do feel that the continuity hasn't been there, and the stars we haven't had the opportunity to kind of like really follow someone's story, because at the first opportunity that they have to go to their kid's graduation or whatever the case may be, they're putting someone else in the car. And that, to me, is problematic. It's not the way you build stars. It's not the way you get commitment from people, because people are going to take advantage of that opportunity. Like if that opportunity wasn't there, I think you got guys making tough decisions. Like we're either going to have to forego the championship this year, or we're foregoing graduation for our kid's bar mitzvah or whatever. Right. So anyways, I think that those are interesting things. What do you make of the Angelle Sampey deal? It sounded like that was a huge news, right? Angelle Sampey licensing in a top alcohol dragster as part of Antron Brown's driver development program, going to be running 2 or 3 races, I think, this year. Indy, St. Louis, Dallas.
No, I think it's
4?
3 races after Indy. I know I don't think Indy is included in her schedule this year. So I could be wrong about that. I was trying to catch myself up on the press release right before we jumped on. But regardless of it, I think it's great. We saw Angelle kind of on the sidelines and representing Mission Foods during the Too Fast, Too Tasty ceremonies and media stuff throughout the national events, which has been great. But such a icon and talent wasted, got to get her in something. I think it's really cool to see her and Antron were teammates for so long. Just really a dynamic duo for Don Schumacher Racing in the Pro Stock Bike in the Army days. And then to have Antron make the transition to Top Fuel. And then now, really, how long has Antron been in Top Fuel at this point? Like 15 years at least? It's
been a hot minute, right?
And so 15 years later, after Antron's been in Top Fuel, here now he is laying the pathway as a team owner for Angelle to compete in Top Fuel. I think that's an awesome story. And that's the kind of stories that we love to tell and we love to shine a light on with the things we do here. So I'm really excited about that, to see obviously what she does to end this year, but start of next year when we'll see her in a Top Fuel ride.
It's kind of crazy, right? I think he's been in Top Fuel since like 2000. Yeah, in 2008, made successful transition.
2008.
Yeah, to Top Fuel from Pro Stock Motorcycle with 2 wins and 3 number 1 qualifiers. And yeah, you think of all that he's accomplished.
Yeah, he came right in. He kicked ass that first year, if you remember that.
Yeah, which is, I kind of forgot about that in the moment, but you're 100% right. I think this is fantastic. And it does just, it's like proof. It's evidence that this tier system, this feeder system can work.
And people matter, and relationships matter, and the fact that these two maintained their relationship and friendship throughout the years, and then now it's come full circle. Because I forget maybe how that whole the deal worked in the bikes. I know Angelle rode for Winston, and I can't remember. I think that was part of a different team. That was pre-Schumacher. But
pre-Schumacher.
Yeah. But she was like the lead dog, and Antron was the newcomer. Now Antron is multi-time world champion. He's the lead dog. She's the newcomer. It's like, I mean, it's got a lot. I'm just writing a story for you, Nate.
You are, man. A lot of layers to this onion.
Take this and make a story out of this, please, because it really is cool.
I'm glad to see it, man. I think that the sport of drag race, we do have some like real hitters, like some contributors that are significant, that have like a voice, have an opinion, have a perspective, and have real skill and ability that need be drag racing. I don't.
And we got to get her back in a ride too, so she can compete with Erica. They're going to be neck and neck. Erica just needs one more win to pass her, I believe, for all-time winningest female in motorsports history. So I'm sure Angelle was like, "Get me back in a car so I can try to keep up with this."
All right, last thing here before we call it a day, and I want to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors at the Wes Buck Show. Of course, longtime partners of ours here: Stroud Safety, Redline Synthetic Oils, Racers Club, new members of the team: FlowRacing.com, Racers Club, and Aeromotive Fuel Systems. Mike, do you think we see 300 miles an hour in the 8th mile this weekend at the NHRA US Nationals? You're a weather aficionado. We saw
not like Keith Haney.
I've
lost my crown to Keith Haney, Mr. Barometer.
Dude, he pays close attention to the barometer. But we saw 299.73, I believe, last year in the 8th mile
at Indy.
299.73.
I remember that.
2022,
wasn't it?
Brittany Force. Yeah. Do you think that she can? What's your take on this?
I think, didn't we get some weird weather come through to where it got really cool in Indy last year? I was looking at the weather this year. It looks great. Sunny. Friday looks pretty good. I think maybe if they can put it together Friday night, but after that it gets hot. I mean, we're talking like low 90s, I think, by Saturday and Sunday and Monday. So no rain in the forecast. Let me knock on some wood really quick. Weather looks great so far, but hot after Friday. So maybe they can get something done Friday, but I highly doubt it. I think, to me, you're going to see that at Sonoma or Vegas. I think Vegas is a dark horse. By one of the most interesting articles we've ever had on Drag Illustrated was Brett Kepner's analysis of tracks that run uphill and how that adds just the extra bit of load to these nitro engines that those engines crave. And I believe, I forget the rest of the story, gives them a little bit more time on track to build some mile per hour. And that's where we'll potentially see it. Or that's why we see, despite the adverse conditions of Las Vegas, we see big speeds there a lot. And then Sonoma, you just have the crazy conditions, which I believe, does Sonoma run downhill? I think I think Sonoma runs
racing uphill at Sonoma.
Oh, it's uphill?
Uphill. Yeah, it's
shutdown is definitely uphill at Sonoma.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting, like, that the engine, like, running uphill? I don't know, man. I'm excited to see. I don't know. I don't see.
It's also
if it happens Friday night.
The more you move around too. If the car moves a little bit, it actually gives it more time and distance to build speed on track versus like a laser straight run. Wild stuff. Speed is wild, like especially the way we clock it in drag racing versus the way we clock ET. It's always been an interesting thing to me.
I agree 100%. I don't know that I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see it happen this weekend. It would be cool, but I do think, I mean, not to throw this out here, but I think if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in Bradenton next February.
Ooh.
So I think it's probably going to happen in Bradenton next February. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see 300 in the 8th mile and 340 in the quarter.
What's the bounty
in the 1,000 foot?
In the
30 grand.
30 grand.
Yeah, 30 grand from Philip Connect. Shout out Jim Epler.
Maybe that's just not enough money for these guys to just throw everything at it and to just, or maybe throw away a run. What if you throw away a run? What if these guys threw away a run and just said, we're basically running this thing 8th mile as hard as it'll go? That's what it's going to take.
Probably so. And I think that that's the situation that exists like at an Indy where you got 4 or 5 qualifying sessions. You just can't afford to get a run behind. Like I remember I read an article about Ron Capps talking about how well they ran at Maple Grove a year or so ago, or whenever it was the article that Phil Burgess wrote on NHRA.com, which is a fantastic article actually. And it just talks about speed and drag racing. And Ron like 100% identifies the fact that they just crushed it on Q1, set them up to make a Hail Mary run in Q2.
Oh, you have to make a good
that they couldn't have
run.
made. Like if he goes, the only reason we made the run we made in Q2 where they went like 339 and change was because we nailed it on the first attempt. And had they not nailed it, they'd have been playing catch up and they wouldn't have been able to get that aggressive. So my thought is the only way I see it happening in Indy is just the fact that Grubby's been there before, right? He knows what 299, like he knows the tune up to go 299.73 in the 8th based on last year. And part of me goes, if the conditions are close and he goes, we can probably knock this out with a moving a timer a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
We'll see.
I think that's going to be one of the stories of the weekend.
It'd be cool to do it at Indy. Maybe that's the motivation to do it, that they want to do it at Indy and say it was done there.
And there's no group that's more like fired up about etching their name into the history books like drag racers, right?
That's what it's all about.
Like, okay, we could probably nuke our whole weekend here, but we'll be famous. You know what I mean? Yeah, let's do it, So that's
all right. Last thing.
Okay.
Let's talk about the DI squad team appearances and what we're doing in Indy.
Yeah, man. So I was actually going to run through this early on when Keith Haney was talking about how much it costs, because I thought, y'all, we're about to spend 10 grand going to Indy, probably, maybe more, and we're not even racing, right?
You could save a lot of money if you didn't bring JT. You could save at least $5,000 of that if you didn't have to pay JT's bar tab.
That's a fact. So no, very excited, man. Huge shout out to the whole team at Cruz Pedregon Racing, inviting myself and the Drag Illustrated crew, Mike and JT, to come hang out, sign autographs at the Cruz Pedregon Open House on Thursday night. We'll be there from the beginning to the bitter end. Very excited to see all our friends in the drag racing community. Cruz Pedregon.
That's an awesome deal. Huge car show out back. That deal is
music.
Bonkers. I was not prepared for that last year.
And it's a badass spot too. Like it's a really nice facility. So huge shout out to Cruz Pedregon for having us in. Excited to be there. Support the Snap-on Funny Car team. Friday we'll be at the racetrack. Excited to be a part of the NHRA US Nationals. We will be perusing the pits Friday, Saturday, Sunday from start to the bitter end. Man, I'm excited
Saturday,
to see you guys.
We do have a special event Saturday in the JCM
Saturday
pits. We can't divulge too many details, but do have a cool unveiling and press conference in the hospitality there between
which I believe 200 people have RSVP to.
It's going to be the one between Schumacher and Wilkerson's pits, right?
Yep, it's what is it? It's Schumacher and Ron Capps.
Yeah, no, sorry, Ron Capps. Ron Capps. Yeah,
the Maynard family hospitality area, but very exciting, man. It's no, dude, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing you. I think that I talk about this all the time. Like our business is unique, and we're kind of like a reflection of like the modern business in this day and age. It's not at all unusual to have people working remotely all over creation. We got you and Charlotte, Nate in Indianapolis, and the JT, Caroline, Nancy.
Blake, we're gonna have Nate
Missouri.
There. Nate's our resident Indy.
I mean, we're spread all over creation, and to have the opportunity to get together and see one another, I think it's really important, And anytime I have the opportunity to be around my guys, I get excited about it.
Yeah, man. Indy's my second home at this point. Make at least 2 or 3 trips to Indy every year now.
It is kind of crazy, and I love that city, man. I really think it's a great part of the country. I love the downtown area. I love Claremont. I love Brownsburg. I love what is it? Where were we at for PRI? Speedway, Indiana, that whole area outside of town. it's a great part of the world, man. I can't wait to get there. Guys, thank you all so much for joining us each and every week on the Wes Buck Show, man. We appreciate it's so awesome to get to talk drag racing with all of y'all. Huge shout out to Keith Haney, TJ Pruitt, our guests. I think we should come up with some sort of bit like Jimmy Kimmel did, where we're sorry Matt Damon wasn't able to make it. Right? Like he did that every week. Sorry to Matt Damon for not being able to get him on the show this week. We're going to do the same thing with Jim Halsey. Sorry to Jim Halsey for not being able to get him on the show this week. We're going to try again next week. Best of luck to him. Huge shout out to John Mazzarana. I just want to give some kudos. This is a little bit of a special announcement. The winner of the YellowBullet Nationals this weekend at Cecil County Dragway in Maryland in Pro Modified will be automatically invited to the 2024 running of the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod. I made that deal this morning. Super excited about that. We have all been talking for months that we wanted to identify some events in our community that really made a difference, that stood out, and we wanted to kind of make it known that there's an alliance, make it known that we support these events, make it known that we're proud of what they're doing. And the way that we feel we can do that is make sure that the winner of the YellowBullet.com Nationals this coming weekend at Cecil County Dragway is automatically invited to the World Series of Pro Mod. So super excited about that. Looking forward to doing some more of that this year.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll probably have some more coming.
Yeah. A lot of badass events, but huge shout out to Jim Halsey and John Mazzarana at the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association. $25,000 up for grabs this weekend at YB Nats. So huge shout out to that whole group. Safe racing. I hope they have a fantastic weekend. Same goes for everybody at the NHRA. Almost 900 cars converging on Indianapolis, Indiana for the biggest drag race in the world. So it's an exciting time. Appreciate all you guys supporting this. Remember, click like, click share, click subscribe, and we will see you next Wednesday right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel, Drag Illustrated Facebook page. Thanks a bunch, guys.
Yep.
We'll talk to you soon.
See y'all in Indy.